A quorum being present, this town meeting is called to order. For those able and willing, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, on Thursday, we adjourned in the middle of Article 9 while we were discussing Charter Section 8.11.2 recall petition, and that is where we will begin tonight. There is another wrinkle. The town council told me tonight. Mr. Cool?
I'd like to make a motion. Thank you for turning the mic on.
Can you wait till after my announcements?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. I'll call on you right away.
Thank you.
Okay. Once we finish the discussion on Article 9, which I believe the recall petition is the last piece of that, the town council has told us that we're better off not voting on it right then, but putting it on the table and going back to 8 and finishing that. The reason is that if 8 should pass and 9 does not, there's no problem. But if 9 passes and 8 does not, it causes an issue. So she'd rather we do it in the other order. So anyway, that's how we will proceed. And once we get 8 done and voted, we will go back and just do the vote on 9, and then from there we'd go to 10 and 11 and so forth. Okay, Mr. Cool, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted...
I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My motion is to complete 8 and 9, and then move directly to Article 2, the instructional motions.
So you want the instructional motions to come up after 8 and 9 are complete?
The instructional motions, right, after we've completed the charter work.
Okay, I will make a note and I will call on you after those 2, and you can make a motion to take Article 2 from the table.
Thank you, sir.
Have I got the right one? Yes. Okay, so with that said, we will go back into discussion on Article 9, which was we're working on 8.11.2 recall petition. Do we have discussion? Mr. Pacino?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Phil Pacino, Precinct 5, and a retired member of the Charter Commission. So I think, you know, at last Thursday's meeting, we had a motion to adjust the 20% to 10%. I've kind of, in the meantime, done some research. You know, so basically there are 21,176 registered voters per the last election. 20% is 4,235 signatures you'd have to get. There's no precinct that has that many people in it. There's maybe at the most 2,700 in the highest of the precincts. Now, I can't remember if I was on the committee when this was discussed. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I misremembered. But, you know, to be honest with you, my good friend, Mr. Arena, in his amendment to move this to 20%, to 10%, and leave it back to the 20%, makes a lot more sense to me. Because to get 4,235 signatures is just a bridge too far to cut to. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jeffrey Dietz, Precinct 5. So on Thursday, we heard that a recall referred to as a political process. And I vividly remember back in 2020 being saddened to see a select board member move to accelerate the scheduling of a recall election at the height of the pandemic, while we were all still unsure of the efficacy of social distancing, masks, and vaccines. The board member made the motion seconds after the chair of the Board of Health had said that it would be highly irresponsible to schedule a special election in advance of the normally scheduled election. A recall is a political process. As an election worker, I am aware of this. There are a lot of election workers in this body and people who care about the election process. A guy got smoked in a library trustee election and demanded a recount, and that cost the town time and money. Was that a political process? Maybe, but it looked like sour grapes to me. In Reading, we have representative town meeting instead of open town meeting. Representative town meeting tempers the influence of angry mobs with pitchforks and torches affecting our work here. We've already watered down the language that was initially proposed to prevent submission of affidavits that read like Facebook rants full of baseless assertions being used to stoke enough anger and outrage to gather a couple thousand signatures. A recall is a political process. Do you know what else is a political process? A free and fair election. I do appreciate the irony of getting more people to register to vote just so they can sign their names on a petition to undo the outcome of a free and fair election. However, if increasing the threshold to 20% makes it nullifying a free and fair election more difficult, I can live with that. I'm going to vote no on lowering that threshold.
Over the other side.
Emily Sisson, Precinct 2. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thanks to the Charter Review Committee for their deliberations on all of these items. I know it's a long and lengthy process. So, like Mr. Dietz, I work at the elections, and Mr. Wise stole my thunder and read all those numbers last time, but if you go back the last 10 years, our average turnout is somewhere around 26%. The lowest in the last recent years was 19%, so that 20% is our engaged voters. That's like who is reliably showing up, even if there's uncontested races across the ballot. So far as I know, and I think others have said, the only recall effort we've had was triggered by an affidavit that was rooted in what would amount to, in my opinion, is procedural disagreements about the meeting timing, discussion delays, agenda setting, nothing, no allegations of illegality or ethical misconduct. So, that was allowed to proceed with a 10% threshold. And when it ultimately went to the vote, it was roundly rejected. It was 59% to 41%. And more than 9,700 residents participated in that election. So the people are there, and to say it's impossible to get, that 20% requirement, I think is not accurate. I think it was impossible for that particular recall to get that threshold, with only 3,800 coming in and voting in favor of it at the election. It costs the town significant time, money, and a little bit of embarrassment. And that's appropriate because I think recalls should not be just triggered by divisive or flimsy grounds. Rising the threshold doesn't eliminate the recall option or make it even unreasonably difficult. A higher threshold will ensure that recalls are only used when there are clear, serious, and publicly understood grounds. Those are things like Ms. Downing mentioned, like fraud and corruption, abuse of office, ethical breaches. In such cases, I think it would be very reasonable to get those 4,200 signatures when we're seeing 9,700 come out for the actual vote. Recalls are disruptive, they're costly, they require staff time, election resources, and it creates instability in our government. A higher threshold will protect against misuse while preserving accountability where it matters. 10% has proven too low, in my opinion. The only real case we have made that clear to me. 20% is maybe slightly higher, but I think it's a reasonable data-supported safeguard that aligns with our electorate's actual voting behavior. Thanks.
Over here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ryan Johnstone, Precinct 7. I just have a couple clarifying questions really quick before I get into the info I have to share. Do we know how that the 10% was originally determined? Like, do we have the background as to how 10% was used originally?
I guess is the question, how did it originally come to be 10% in the charter?
Yeah.
Does anybody who was on previous charter committees know? I don't know.
Okay. Goes back to the beginning of the charter? Okay. Am I correct, did I hear correctly on Thursday that it was the consensus of the charter committee that 10% was too low and needs to be raised?
It was a unanimous vote by the charter committee to make this change.
Okay, but very specifically, was it unanimous that the opinion was 10% was too low? Even before we get to 20, just 10% was too low and needed to be increased?
I don't recall if we specifically voted on, was 10% too low,
Okay.
but in our discussions, 20% was felt to be appropriate. Chris countered with suggesting we raise the number of days from 21 to get the signatures to 30.
Yeah.
And that was, everybody kind of agreed that that was also reasonable.
Okay.
So, and then, I think as has been mentioned, every part of the charter that was voted on by the committee, it was a unanimous vote on everything.
All right, thank you. So I say that because I'm a very process-oriented person. And first and foremost, I agree with Mr. Arena that without knowing how the 20% was derived, it sounds arbitrary and capricious. But at the same token, so does 10% then. We have no idea how 10% was derived either. So as far as I'm concerned, 20 and 10% both seem arbitrary and capricious without more of a background. So hence the reason I asked, what was it that the charter committee was trying to do? Was there a problem that got identified that was trying to get fixed with this in the first place?
Okay, sorry, that's a slightly different wording. I must have misunderstood what you were saying.
Sure.
Yes, it was, the discussion was to make a higher bar for a recall election. So that was the discussion of raising it to 20%.
So what I've done in the last 5 days was, and I used as much time as I could and still remain married, so bear with me on some of this. I haven't dug into all the communities in Massachusetts. But I did end up on Ballotopia to look at recall efforts around the state over the last 5 or 6 years, and that led me to 17 communities. Kingston, Southwick, Nantucket, Greenfield, Belchertown, Hopkinton, East Hampton, Fairhaven, Winthrop, Bourne, Milford, Westford, Reading, Dartmouth, Braintree, Beverly, and Fall River have all at least reached the threshold of affidavits to get a petition. Of those communities, of those 17, 11 of them have 20% as a threshold in order to turn that petition into a recall election. The others are at 10% or lower. Okay, of the other 6, some of them that are 10%, some of them got the affidavit, didn't get enough petitions to even reach their own 10% threshold. Of the 11 that have a 20% threshold, about half of them were turned into a recall election. They got enough signatures, and about half of those that went to recall the recall effort was successful, and half of them was removed. So when I look at this, there should be 2 different checkpoints. Just because you get an affidavit doesn't mean you should end up with a recall election. There should be a raising of the bar. What I can also say is the only ones that I saw that, in my opinion, would be classified as overwhelmingly opposed were Belchertown and here in Reading that have thresholds of 10 and 8% respectively. Of everyone that has a 20% threshold, and you go look at their election results of the 17 communities I just said, their results were either closer or overwhelmingly in favor of recalling the elected official. So in other words, that official clearly needed to be recalled with that 20% threshold. The closest community I found to us was Dartmouth, has 23,000 population, 20% threshold, needed 4,600 signatures, and in the last year or 2, they got the 4,600 signatures to successfully lead to a recall election. So our numbers here of 20% what we have in town would be right around the same as Dartmouth. At 20%, they got it done. I don't know if 20% is right. To me, maybe 15, 17 and a half, but 10% to go back to it without knowing how we got there under the basis that 20% is arbitrary and capricious doesn't make sense to me. And 20% is a lot more aligned with what I found in the communities, and I can share this and happy to look at anybody else, but that's what I found, and that went back to 2019 off Ballotopia. Thank you.
Yes, on the other side. Oh, do we have a comment? Did you have a comment? Excuse me, Mr. Haley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. For my portion on this with the charter, like I had mentioned last time, that every vote was unanimous, how Jesse just mentioned, that doesn't mean that I didn't disagree with specifics that were being changed. I would say for me it was more that, I don't want to say I was playing nice in the sandbox, but you know, we were a diverse group of people. Not everyone was going to agree with what I was going to propose, and not everyone would agree with what Jesse proposed. But we came to a compromise, which is why Jesse wanted to see one number increased, which is why I worked on the other numbers. I don't think I would have touched the recall section at all personally, but I did not go through it at the same time as a majority of you did. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then I also think that we have to change our peer communities if we're not going to be citing peer communities anymore.
Yes, over on the other side.
Thank you very much. Carrie Perry, Precinct 6. Tonight we're being asked a very direct question. Should we make it twice as hard for the residents of Readings to hold an elected official accountable for wrongdoing? Raising the recall threshold from 10 to 20% is not a major administrative tweak. It is a major shift in power away from our residents and towards elected officials. According to the latest data, as many people have said, it's moving it roughly from 2,100 signatures to 4,200 signatures. Even with the current system, recalls are really rarely used. I'm only aware of the one that we had. Now consider what doubling the threshold would do. First, it placed the greatest burden to those with the least capacity to organize. Doubling the threshold doesn't just make recalls harder, it makes them nearly impossible for residents who already face barriers to participation. This could include young families and working households who may lack the time to gather signatures across multiple precincts. This could also include renters and newer residents who may not yet have the deep local roots, and historically marginalized groups whose voices are often underrepresented in civic processes. These are the people whose concerns may otherwise be overlooked. Increasing the threshold disproportionately limits their ability to hold officials accountable and reduces the overall accessibility and fairness of this democratic tool. Secondly, it concentrates power, reduces accountability, and encourages complacency. If an official violates public trust, raising the threshold makes it far easier for them to ride it out, so to speak. When voters face a nearly impossible barrier to action, it fosters complacency, allowing misconduct or mismanagement to go unchecked. Accountability should be accessible to everyone, not just those with extensive networks, time, or resources. From a cost-saving argument, I feel it misses the point to have that as an argument. Some argue that raising the threshold will reduce the cost of recall elections, but recalls are rare here, and doubling the threshold does not diminish frivolous from serious recalls. It simply prevents almost all recalls. The true cost of inaction is unchallenging misconduct, mismanagement, or eroded public trust, which is far higher than a cost of a rare election. We should trust the people of Reading. Residents have used this process responsively and sparingly. They have shown they can organize when necessary and act thoughtfully. We should not create a barrier that only the most resourced groups can overcome. In closing, raising the recall threshold to 20% would make accountability harder and civic participation more difficult. Our democracy is strongest when residents are empowered to act, to speak up, and to participate. For these reasons, I urge you to vote yes on the amendment to retain the 10% threshold and reject the charter proposal to raise it. Thank you.
Over on this side.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carolyn Johnson, Precinct 2. So I thought a lot about the 2020 recall effort over the weekend, mostly about the negative impact it had on our community. Obviously, there was tension prior to the recall, but I'd argue that following through with it is what pushed us over the edge to where we are now as a town, politically speaking. Because petitioning for a recall based on a political difference of opinion or disagreement about process is, without question, a divisive solution. Regular elections address those issues. I was disappointed to hear town meeting members talk about sides the other night. While they're right, either side could seek a politically motivated recall. Why would we want to do that? The damage to our community wouldn't be worth it. Not only are recalls expensive, they unleash a firestorm on the town and on the process and on a resident volunteer, while effectively ending any chance for constructive discussion and compromise. I hope that town meeting members will keep these things in mind when voting on this amendment. I will be voting against it. It should be possible, not impossible, to rally voter support for a recall attempt, regardless of political affiliations, if it is based on objectively unlawful and unethical conduct. In my opinion, it is not an unreasonable requirement that recall petitioners should have to work hard and in good faith to convince at least 20% of taxpayers that their cause is not only worth the expense, but also the inevitable turmoil it will inflict on the town. And that the individual they are seeking to remove from office is legitimately deserving of the real hardship it will create for them. Thank you.
Mr. O'Neill?
John O'Neill, Precinct 6. I just want to clarify, or make the distinction between petitions and people show up to vote. Because we heard a lot about that the other evening as far as how many people actually vote in the local elections. But it's far easier to get people to sign petitions, as we saw last time. People stand out in front of the library, you know, people go to their neighbors, and it's very hard to say no to your neighbor when if you're wavering, what you also often hear is, oh, well, this will just put it on the ballot. You know, you're not actually voting on it now. So in fact, the barrier for a petition, when people were talking about how many people show up to vote on the actual election day, are apples and oranges. And I too thought when we did have the recall, it was very unfortunate, and I wish there was a higher barrier for the damage that it did to the community as a whole. Thank you.
Mr. Piliowski?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Gena Pilowski, Precinct 7. So I'm in favor of what the bylaw has put forth, and I'll be voting against the amendment that we're discussing right now. I, too, spent some time on Ballotpedia this weekend, looking at the successful elections. There's about 24 of them over the course of the last 20 years or so. Low number, as it should be. What I was looking for is the threshold that is required in order to have a recall election, the time that over a course of which signatures are allowed to be collected, and the justification for the recall. Given that there's only about a dozen or so successful recalls in the last 2 decades, it was very difficult to draw any type of large statistics, some missing data, but while quantitative analysis was impossible in good faith, qualitatively what I saw was a range of thresholds, anywhere between 5% all the way up to 25%. I also saw a range of how long you're allowed to collect signatures for, anywhere between 2 weeks up to infinity, I think. The last couple of successful recall elections had a 20% threshold, and they allowed signatures to be collected for 2 and then 3 weeks. The justification for those was breaking open meeting law, like walking out of the meetings, turning the select board into circus. That's a quote from Ballotpedia. So it's not a really high bar to achieve 20% threshold, even in 2 weeks, if the community truly believes that a member of the board needs to be removed. So I'm in support of what the bylaw has put forth. I do think that the number of 30 days is a little bit higher than I would want to see it, though. But thank you.
Mr. Carnahan?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe Carnahan, Precinct 7. So we've heard several times that recalls are a political process. It occurs to me that there's maybe more than one meaning of the word politics here. There is a literal meaning. Does it involve the town clerk having to do a lot of work in an election? Yes. However, I think the fundamental disagreement behind this is whether or not you think a recall should be political in the partisan sense. I believe that a recall should not be political in the partisan sense. We have annual elections in this town. That is a great place for you to express your opinion. And turnout being as low as people have said, there's a great opportunity for you to have an impact there. For a recall, I would like to see a cause that transcends partisan lines, that is a clear ethical or legal breach. And I do not have any concern about the ability to get 20% of residents over 30 days to sign a petition in the event of such a unambiguously nonpartisan transgression. Thank you.
Yes, over here.
Elizabeth Blumen, Precinct 8. So ironically, I actually have two questions before I say what I wanted to say. One, the charter is from 1944, is that right?
No, the charter is originally from 1986.
1980s. And this clause went into the charter when?
I believe at that time.
And how many
Does the town clerk know? She said yes.
And how many recalls have we had in town since that happened? Did you guys know that? Sorry, I'm new here. Thanks for putting up with me. You guys are all, arguing about all these numbers and debating, maybe not arguing, and I appreciate that. But the thing that hit me when I saw this was this happened to a person, a mother, a parent, somebody that had a full-time job, somebody that had like a life that this turned completely upside down. So I think that as we squabble back and forth about the numbers and about the days, I think it's important that we think about what it means, because this is something that's really traumatic. And I'm a social worker, so it's kind of my jam, right? But this is traumatic, not just for the person that this happened to, but for everyone who loved them and for people in town just across the board. And the fact that this turns into a political thing, the fact that took me 14 meetings to figure out that if I sit on one side of the room, people assume one thing about me, and if I sit somewhere else, people assume something else about me. Like, that's not what we're here for. We're here to support the residents of our town, the people that elected us, the people that put us sitting in these seats for the crazy hours that we sit here. And for us to squabble back and forth about the numbers, it just blows my mind. And I just wanted to take a minute, just ask everyone to just pause and take a breath. Sorry, I know, social worker, take a breath. And really just recognize like how much this impacted one person, but also all of us. And that's all I wanted to say.
Ms. Janowski.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Karen Janowski, Precinct 2. I tend to be more practical the way that I look at something like this, and so I want to move forward. Yes, there were things that happened in the past, and it did especially impact one person, and there has been an effect on the community. But moving forward, this is something, what we change today is in place for the next 10 years, correct? Because we don't review the charter for another 10 years, is that correct?
Ms. Fried, did you want to answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. While your charter requires a charter review committee to be formed every 10 years, there's nothing that precludes you from amending your charter in the interim. For example, I think it was at the annual, we amended the charter to address the Board of Health composition going from 3 to 5. So that's one example of an amendment that happened between the 10-year review periods.
Okay, that's really helpful, because one of the things that I am concerned about is if we increase the percentage to 20%, and there is something incredibly egregious, where does that leave us as a community when we have to still get out 20% of the voters? And that is one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I know another town meeting member had mentioned the impact on the community, especially those who are new to the community, marginalized, whatever, that they won't be part of the process. But I'm especially concerned when there's an egregious error on the part of an elected official. And I do wonder about the information that was cited of those 17, this person that did the research around the 17 different communities. What was the extent of the challenge? I mean, what was the reason behind the challenge? Because I want to make sure that we as a community are protected, and I do worry about increasing it to 20%. I'm in favor of voting yes for the amendment of keeping it at 10%, because I think then that is doable when we have opportunities and unfortunately are faced with something that is particularly egregious. Thank you.
Yes, over on this side.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ron Powell, Precinct 3. I have two questions, first of all. One, I just want to confirm that the amendment before us is to strike the language that is changed and that it requires a majority vote. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the article before us is a change to the charter, therefore it requires a 2/3 vote.
Not in this case, because in Article 9, they are going to the legislature. We only require a majority vote for this article. When we go back into Article 8, since they have to go before the town, they require a 2/3 vote. But this one here is majority both for the proposed amendment and the final article.
Thank you for clarifying that. Mr. Moderator, I'm a longtime listener, first-time speaker. I want to start by saying that I truly appreciate all of you, even if we don't see things the same way. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Normally I sit over on that side of the room, stage right. But tonight I am sitting stage left, where I sense that the heart of the support for this language change lies. I don't think it's planned that we sit stage right, stage left. I think we just sit with our friends, and our friends tend to share our similar viewpoints, and that's just the way it works out. But I just wanted to sit among supporters for this change, just to say that I want to speak to you, and I want you to hear me. The recall process is a vital tool. It gives voice to the people. It encourages participation. It makes our town more democratic. That's democratic with a lowercase d. Think of it as a fire extinguisher, locked behind glass. When a fire breaks out, you break the glass and you protect the town. I apologize, I normally don't have notes, but doing this on short notice. The changes before us tonight make that glass unbreakable. I understand why some of you want revisions. You felt the last recall was costly, maybe even unnecessary. And then we can't forget the human element either, that at the other end of the recall was a human being, a colleague to all of us and a friend to perhaps your friend. And the voters agreed with you. I want to let you know that I hear that. I don't share your perspective, but I understand where you're coming from. And perhaps that's why this language was brought forward. But do you remember last Thursday when asked why 20%? The answer was pretty straightforward. The goal is to make initiating the recall process harder. In the 2020 recall election, 19.2% of registered voters voted for recall. And a 20% threshold would place a similar recall just out of reach for residents. The glass you see would be harder to break. But mark my words, a day will come when a real fire erupts. You will pound on that glass. You will call for help. And if the glass can't be broken, the loss will be great on that day. To be candid, this is a deal breaker for me. That does not serve the best interest of our residents. Therefore, I cannot support these articles as that section is written. So I stand opposed to the changes, but I do not stand against any of you. I want to work with you. We can keep the fire extinguisher ready. We can protect our town and everyone in it. Thank you.
Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Excuse me. Jonathan Barnes, Precinct 5. We've had a lot of discussion about this. I don't want to repeat or relive any of it. I'm not a master of numbers, so I don't necessarily want to dwell too hard on them. I just want to make, I guess, one or two comments. Just to start off, I think it was you, John, who said that democracy is hard. It is hard, and it should be hard. I don't think this is hard. I don't think 20% is hard. I support it. Is it a challenge? Yes, it is. Honestly, what's the right number? My guess is if there are 192 members of town meeting, there's probably 100, if not 192 different numbers that will come up if people were to write them down on a piece of paper. What's the correct number? 20% is reasonable. I want to remind town meeting, we're talking about the percentage of people that vote, that is people that either get in their cars or go to town hall or make the effort to vote. That's a different number than people who will sign a petition. And when we're talking about this 20%, we're talking about people who will sign the petition. So I think that referencing the 20%, the number of people that vote, is conflating what is the real number. And with respect to the real number, we're hearing that it's hard to get whatever the number is, 20,000 signatures. I don't know whether that's correct. By the way, it's 2% of the registered voters. I think Mr. Pacino talked about the number of residents in Reading being 21,000. I don't think that's the number of registered voters, but regardless, oh, is it? Okay, thank you. Regardless, what we're talking about is getting 400, if it's 20%, that's 420 signatures. That is 420 people who want there to be a recall election. I'm talking about people signing the petition. Oh, okay. I said at the outset I wasn't a master of numbers. But regardless, that's 4,000 people that, if that's the case, and I'll take your word for it, that's 4,000 people who want to sign their name to saying there should be a recall. I would also point out that in the second paragraph, it talks about the town clerk providing to the first 10 voters the petitions to be signed. We all know that the petitions can be copied. They were the last time. They will every time. All my point is there's going to be a lot more than 1 or 2 people running around trying to get signatures. There very well may be 4,000 people running around getting signatures. If take a number, take 25 people are going around getting signatures. My math may not be correct, but that's 168 people, unless someone can correct that, but 168 people is not all that hard to get. Democracy is hard. Getting 20% of people is not that hard. And frankly, as we've all heard from a lot of people talking about what a recall means, it should be a challenge. It should be difficult. Thank you.
Ms. Alvarado?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Vanessa Alvarado, Precinct 5. I'd like to ask for an additional 5 minutes.
Is there objection? Was there an objection? I'm sorry. No? Okay, continue.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Like Mr. Arena said last week, I also know a little something about recalls. For those of you who are new to local politics, I have the dubious honor of being the only person in the history of Reading's charter to face a recall election. But my goal in speaking tonight isn't to relitigate the 2020 recall election. You can read all the letters to the editor in the Reading Post at your leisure. There is also, as previous speakers have said, a Ballotopedia page. Instead, I'd like to share what I have never spoken about in public. There are people in this room who hate me. Some of these people I've never even met before. Nothing that I would ever say would convince them to agree with me on anything. Even tonight, when I share how deeply the 2020 recall harmed my family, even if it was unsuccessful. All right. Tonight, I speak to the people who find the drama distasteful, who wish we could have a civil and thoughtful discussion without the insults and yelling. So tonight I speak to you. It may come as no surprise to you that I support these charter changes to make a recall harder to bring to the ballot. Mr. Arena spoke at length last week about how hard it was collecting 2,000 signatures, how it was a lot of hard work. Now I'd like to share with you how hard it is to have a recall attempted against you. During the entirety of the recall, my family and I were subjected to constant harassment, vandalism, personal costs, and unimaginable stress. I had to find and hire an attorney to advise and defend me. For those of you wondering, while the town does cover the costs of a recall election, the town does not cover the costs for the official facing a recall. Someone sent anonymous and threatening mail to my home. The message was clear. I know where you live, but you don't know who I am or what I will do next. At the time, we lived on a very quiet street with minimal traffic. The only people who generally drove down it were the people who lived there. During the recall, people would drive by my house while my kids were playing outside. They would slow down and point at my children. I had to teach my children to run inside when a car slowed down in front of my house because I didn't know what they would do or say to my 7- and 10-year-old children. While I was standing on Main Street, a woman drove past me in her pickup truck and screamed at me. People would flip me the middle finger while I was in public with my children. I was selling my home, and multiple people harassed my real estate agent to get into my home. I would like you to imagine that for a moment. People you have never met, strangers who hate you, try to get into your home, into your kitchen, into your bathroom, into your bedroom, into your children's bedrooms. I had to set up cameras in every room of my house because I did not know what those people might do if they gained access to my home during a showing. After I moved to my new home, someone joked on social media about leaving a bag of dog excrement on my steps as a welcome to the neighborhood gift. A lot of people laughed and liked that comment. While I was having some construction done on my home, the contractor set up a porta potty outside on my property. Someone repeatedly reported it to town hall, and eventually someone tipped it over. I had to warn my children's teachers and principals about harassment they may experience at school. One of my children is acutely aware of what it means to have a public figure as a parent, and I assure you, the association is not positive. Finally, the recall threatened my job. There are organizations, especially in certain industries, that will avoid negative press at all costs. An employee facing a recall election is negative press. I know firsthand what it is like to have your job put at risk due to local politics. So yes, I believe that it should be incredibly difficult to remove someone from office through a recall. Let's remember that, as others have mentioned, we have the ability to vote every April in our regular local elections. But when we're talking about subjecting someone to a recall, the actions of that elected official should, in legal terms, shock the conscience. And it should shock the conscience of the entire community, not a political side. A recall should not be a vindictive weapon used to bludgeon a political opponent. It should be a tool used to remove a person from office who has committed a serious offense. While that offense is open to interpretation, it should be something that garners universal political support. Things like embezzling funds, fraud, domestic violence, sexual assault. I hope we would all agree that these are offenses that are incompatible with holding public office. Because you see, a recall isn't just a political or bureaucratic procedure, as Mr. Arena opined last week. It is an atomic bomb on someone's life. The reason I share this with you tonight is because I believe that attempting to recall someone, an act that can ruin a person's career, reputation, peace of mind, and personal safety, should be an exceptionally high bar to reach. It shouldn't be easy to destroy someone's life simply because you do not agree with their politics. I have significant issues with some members of the current select board, and yet I do not believe that anything they have done would justify recalling them. I wouldn't wish what I went through on my worst enemy. It's cruel and dehumanizing, and should truly be a last resort for when an elected official commits a crime or other major offense. This is not something that should happen over a political disagreement. Mr. Arena chose to subject me and my family to this. That was his choice. But you, as town meeting members, also have a choice tonight. To spare a future elected official from a politically motivated recall by approving the proposed charter changes, to raise the bar for initiating a recall. And honestly, I wish the bar was even higher. I would have supported 30%. But I trust the process that the Charter Review Committee went through, and I trust the bipartisan makeup of that committee when they were proposing these changes. I hope that by my standing here in front of you all and humanizing what a recall truly is, what it truly does, what it means, that most of you will agree that this is not something we should allow to happen again in our community other than for extreme situations such as criminal behavior. I respectfully ask that you do not support Mr. Arena's amendments and instead support the original language as proposed by the Charter Review Committee. Thank you.
And back to the business. Town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rebecca Bailey, Precinct 1. This may, well, I guess not moot. I'd like to move the question on the amendment.
Okay, that requires a 2/3 vote. Is there a second, first of all? Second, okay. It requires a 2/3 vote. Do I still have my counters from the other night?
Come on, you're still employed.
I guess we've lost somebody over here. Mr. Donnelly Moran, can I ask you to do the middle from the camera over? Okay. All those in favor of ending debate on this proposed amendment, please rise.
Twelve.
12.
Thirty.
30.
36.
36.
Yes, it did. 43.
43. And those opposed to ending debate on the proposed amendment, please rise.
0.
3.
0, 3,
2.
2,
9.
9. The vote being 121 in the affirmative, 14 in the negative, the question has been moved. We will now proceed to a vote on the proposed amendment. A yes vote on the amendment would retain the 10% that it is in the charter today, but it would amend what is in the charter committee's proposal. A no vote on this means that the motion would stay at 20%. So it requires just a majority vote. All those in favor of the proposed amendment. Pardon me?
Explain again.
Explain again? Okay. Yeah, correct. Yes is 10%, no is 20%. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the motion does not carry. Is there any other business, any other debate on the recall petition? None appearing. We're not quite there yet. Do I have a motion to lay? Point of order. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, please, I would ask, this is not a sporting event. Please do not applaud. This is a legislative body. Good point. Okay, first we have to lay, we've been asked by the town council to lay this on the table before we take a final vote on 9. The reason being, point of order?
Jeff Struble, Precinct 7, sorry. There are 2 other sections, I think, in Article 9 that we haven't talked about. I mean, granted, they seem to be bookkeeping, but I think they have not, after Article...
There are you sure?
It's called Section 6. The Reading Town Clerk may make non-substantive changes to the numbering of the sections of the town. And also Section 7, this act shall take effect upon approval of the voters. Do we have to vote on that, or is that?
We don't have to vote on it, but you're right. It should be up to debate if anybody wanted to discuss it.
Okay, sorry.
But I had missed those points. None appearing, okay. So the suggestion is that we lay the substance, the motion under Article 9 on the table, and we'll come back to a vote on that after we've determined what's going to happen with Article 8. Everybody understand what we're doing there? Okay. Do we have a motion to lay this on the table? We have a second. Second. All those in favor of laying motion under Article 9 on the table, please raise your hand. Those opposed, and it is laid on the table. Now, Mr. Cool. Mr. Cool?
Actually, Mr. Moderator, I was going to make a comment before, not related to what I brought up
you
earlier.
actually did ask after 8, didn't you? I'm sorry. But we've moved the question. Yeah. So we ended debate on...
Yes. I thought there was something relevant I could say that related to recall, that it's not a motion.
Well, the point is it concerning the proposed amendment, or is it some other part of the recall?
Some other part of the recall,
Okay,
actually.
I'll allow it. Yep.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Just very simply, if we feel the need to recall someone, it's because of an act or an omission that there's widespread objection to. And I feel there's an alternative to that. If I understand correctly, and Ms. Freed can rule on this, it only takes 200 signatures to call a special town meeting during which the assembled town meeting members could discuss the problem and compel the select board to take certain actions. Perhaps it's to encourage an action or stop something. But that's my point, that we do have an alternative that's somewhere between doing nothing and taking the divisive step of a recall, which is also humiliating for the person involved. That's really it, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, do we have we put this on the table. Now we have a motion to take Article 8 from the table. Is there a second? Second? All those in favor of taking Article 8 from the table, please raise your hand. And those opposed? Article 8 is now before us again. Mr. Haley? I think we had...
I'm here.
We had some more discussion, didn't we, after that? We hadn't made a presentation?
I think we were on 812, Alan,
812,
where we
yes.
stopped.
That's what I have, too.
Yeah, who was Jonathan? Okay.
Mr. Barnes?
Public hearing, right?
Yeah.
812 too?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jonathan Barnes, Precinct 5 and Vice Chair of the Charter Review. So I got a little confused there. We are on 812, removal of an appointing board or committee member. Good. 8, no, can we go back down? No, I don't think we did. So we're on 812-1. I don't think we talked about that.
Oh, this is appointed. You're correct. Yep. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So just a little bit of background. As we know, well, I hope we know by now, the purpose of this provision in the charter is to permit or to authorize the process for removal of a board or committee or commission member, and equally important, if not more important, to provide for the due process rights for that board or committee or commission member, hearing, notice of the hearing, opportunity to rebut, and any other protections that might apply in the provision. Article 8.12, as it stands now, speaks to the appointing authority as the entity that has the right to remove a board member. And it is only the appointing authority under the existing law, under the existing charter, that provides that right. However, it came to my attention, and it was brought to the attention of the Charter Review Committee, that that's not the only situation where there could be a removal, where there has been a removal of a board member. The example that came up was with the Permanent Building Committee, and it came up beginning in 2022, I believe. The Permanent Building Committee Appointment Committee appoints members to the committee, as well as temporary members when there is a particular purpose before it. And in 2022, there was a purpose before it. It was the Killam Building School Committee. And the Permanent Building Committee Appointment Committee appointed the members to the temporary members. I believe there were 4. One of them was from the Select Board, one of them was from the School Committee, and others. But the incident or the situation that arose pertained to the Select Board member. And due to some timing that occurred at the time that the selection had to be made, because there was a state funding agency that was providing funding, as we all know, and there were obligations to select the member by a particular time. My understanding was that the Permanent Building Committee Appointment Committee was not meeting within that time frame. So what they elected to do was they authorized or appointed a person selected by the Select Board to be that member. That person was selected, and from 2022 until 2024 served in that capacity. And in 2024, at the time we became aware of it, that person was removed by the Select Board. And at the time, it was determined that because that person had been removed by the Select Board, because the Permanent Building Committee, which was the appointing authority, had delegated its authority to the Select Board, that the rights under Article 8.12.1, et cetera, did not apply. So that particular board or committee member, that was a board member, was not afforded any of the rights contained in Article 8.12.1. So therefore, we have made these changes in order to accommodate that particular situation. So just to go over them in 8.12.1, the first change where it says of any board or committee, that's because, as it turns out, it may not just be the specific appointing authority, so we change it to be the appointing authority of any board or committee, such as just the housekeeping change. The important change is number 2, an appointed member of such board or committee who is serving, I'm sorry, I will go over that. An appointed member of such board or committee who is serving with no specified term length, that's because that was not included in the provision and in the charter, and it could very well be the case that there could be board members who did not have a specified term length. In fact, in this particular case, that was the case, because the temporary members of the Permanent Building Committee are serving for however long that project is ongoing, so there was no specified term. The second section that was changed was for purposes of Article 8.12, the appointing authority shall include, and it specifies the board or commission member who either exercises such appointment or removal or who otherwise obtains that authority through delegation, so that it would include the situation that I just described. In A, I don't know why, or we did not know why, there are 3 ways that a person can be removed, A, B, and C. A is the appointing authority may remove, B is a board or committee, and C is individual voters can remove. In B and C, if you can go back, they do provide for a notice in writing and specifying the grounds. It was absent in A, so we included it in A. You can go on. Copy of the notice, this was not there either. Copy of the notice, request, or certification will be delivered to the member being removed. We thought that was a due process right that should be afforded. It is afforded in other instances in the charter. We added 10 days to provide the board member time to prepare for the hearing because we thought that 5 days was an inadequate amount of time in case they wanted to obtain counsel. So we made it 10 days before the hearing to be provided notice of when the hearing was. I believe the rest are housekeeping. We added close of the public hearing because the hearing may go on for more than one day. In 813, that's just housekeeping, and I believe in the rest of it, if there is any more, it would just be housekeeping. And that would be it for 8.12. Thank you. I believe that takes you to the end of the charter? Yep. Yes, I believe so. Ms. Nazzaro?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carla Nazzaro, Precinct 1. I'm the chair of the Killam School Building Committee. I'm going to push back a little bit, Mr. Barnes. That was not the correct representation of what actually happened. And I know that because I was the chair of the committee. I will tell you that because of the MSBA requirement, when the board, when the committee for the Killam School Building Committee was appointed, there was a time frame. The select board was the only major board that did not meet that time frame. They did not vote in time. So they were exempt from what happened in the charter and the provisions of the charter for that specific appointment, which left us in a quandary because we needed to make the vote. We needed to get the committee members to the MSBA for their approval. So what the select board did was circumvent the charter and the requirements of the appointment committee, and they appointed their own member. That was unfortunate. That was an error on the part of the select board. So I do not agree with the modifications to this. This was a unique situation. School council and town council was part of this decision and part of this process. So the process was done within the bounds of the charter, within the bounds of the MSBA rules, and we had legal counsel for that decision. So I will not be voting for this portion.
Well, thank you very much for your information. With all due respect, I disagree with your characterization of how that occurred. I spoke to members of the Permanent Building Committee. I reviewed the motion that the Permanent Building Committee made, the appointment committee, that is. They specifically said that it was up to, they deferred to the select board to make that decision.
Sure.
Regardless of that, that begs the question as to whether or not that particular member should or should not have been afforded the rights under Article 8.12 that every other board and committee and commission member is afforded under Article 8.12. And they were not, because they were told by many people, including town council's office, not this particular town council, but her office, that individual was not afforded those rights because the Permanent Building Committee appointment committee was the appointing authority, and selection was not made by the appointing authority, and that individual was therefore not afforded those rights. However they got there, whether your characterization is more accurate than mine, is not the issue. The issue was whether or not that individual should have been afforded those due process rights. We felt they should, and the only way to make that happen would be to come up with a provision such as we did.
And with all due respect, you felt that you could have been part of that against what town council has said to us. So for those reasons, because I will vote no on this. My understanding is because this was a decision of the select board, it wasn't, it was a different process. We got town council involved. So I don't know where the miscommunication happened, but this is something I won't be voting for.
You are correct that the person was not afforded those rights because it was a decision made by the select board. And because they were not afforded those rights, or the reason they were not afforded those rights because the decision was made by the Select Board is because the Select Board was not the appointing authority and the charter did not provide for it. This would provide for, in that situation, that individual would be afforded these rights.
The Select Board's not the appointing authority, but because their delay in their decision, this loophole happened, or this situation happened. But your representation is, in my opinion, a little bit misleading.
Well, with all due respect, I think you're missing the point. The point is that the individual was not afforded the protections because the protections then and now, unless we make the change, only apply to when the appointing authority is making the decision. And the appointing authority for this decision at the time is the Permanent Building Committee. However the Select Board got those rights, they were not the appointing authority, and that's why this person didn't have those rights.
I think it's time we move on.
May I?
One last thing. Then we need to
We have to be clear that the appointing authority appoints the members on the Killam School Building Committee. However, because the Select Board position fell out of that requirement, the appointing committee actually approved the Select Board's appointment. They did not appoint that position. That is the only position that is not appointed by the committee. It is appointed, they were appointed by the Select Board. Do I have that right, Town Council?
Town Council, want to respond?
Thank you. So my understanding of this situation was that the school building committee for Killam was created. And at the time it was created, there wasn't a specific individual that the Select Board had put forward for appointment. So instead of voting a specific individual, the vote was to appoint whoever the Select Board elects and chooses. And so they essentially, as Jonathan said, delegated their authority to make the appointment to the Select Board. So currently, your charter doesn't afford rights to anyone if the appointing authority delegates their authority to another body. So the Select Board was free to change out their representative on this committee without going through the process outlined in 812. What the amendment before you would do would afford those rights to an individual in those cases where the appointing authority has delegated their appointment to another body.
I just wanted to be clear that this was not an issue with the Killam School Building Committee, Appointment Committee. It was an issue with the Select Board. Thank you.
Mr. Doxer.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Doxer, Precinct 1. This community is blessed to have many volunteers willing to give up very large quantities of their time to support the activities of the town. I applaud the Charter Committee in looking at this, identifying a loophole, potential loophole, whatever you want to call it, that would reestablish due process in going through this whenever there's a desire to have someone recalled or whatever you want to call it here. So I speak in favor of leaving this just as it is and appreciate the work that was done to get it there. Thank you.
Ms. Doxer.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. 2 points. One is on this. What I stood up before to say is that there are direct implications, impacts on our volunteers when they see other volunteers not being treated fairly. And with the recall, with something like this, I want to thank the Charter Committee for recognizing when those issues arise and trying to address them with the policy changes. So thank you very much. I also just wanted to sort of, I'm not making an amendment, but 8.14 is about the town seal. A while ago, I made a instructional motion about the town seal being violent with the arm of the sword above the homestead as opposed to the Massachusetts seal, which has it above an indigenous person. The state is currently changing with its commission the seal and the flag. And this 8.14 says that the seal will remain the same. I just want to sort of put a flag on there that when the state changes it, Reading also ought to change ours, because I don't think violence belongs in our town seal or charter. Thank you.
Comment? Mr. Haley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. This got brought up during the Charter Committee, the last thing that Linda mentioned, and as Ivrea previously mentioned, if anything changes in the future, we can petition the legislator to change things in the Charter. So even though this is not red or blue line or whatever fantastic color we're using for things, this discussion did come up, and that's what we ended up with.
Yes, on the other side?
Hi, Carrie Perry, Precinct 6. So just to clarify, I know Linda's mentioning the seal. I know she did have an instructional motion. I just want the body to understand the impact of that. The town seal is on every street sign that we have. It's on every vehicle that the town has. It's on so many things that as we sit here as a town meeting member body, it's really, you know, fiscally, I would say irresponsible, I think, personally, to be reconsidering something like that at this time.
Ms. Binder? Okay, I think we've had enough discussion on the seal, because that's not before the body tonight.
Angela Binder, Precinct 5. I want to thank the committee for putting in these provisions for due process and transparency. The meeting, the select board meeting that was held to remove the person representative was held, I think, at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning with the bare minimum notice to the public. So it was a duly noticed meeting, but I don't know how many people were expecting a Thursday. I don't know that it was Thursday, but it was early in the morning. So it's good that there is more due process, and also the notice shall be in writing and shall specify the grounds. I do remember also that the chair of the select board stated something to the effect of, this can be hard, this can be easy, I can go through all of the things one by one, or I can just take the vote. So I don't believe that there was actually anything in writing that was presented to the select board member. Maybe there was, I don't think it was with the clerk. It wasn't available to the public. So I think that it's great that the notice is in writing, and that the notice will be delivered to the town clerk. Thank you.
Ms. Downing?
So I just want to confirm, because I'm not bringing up the seal, I kind of lost track on my way up about what the placeholder was, but are you agreeing that any mention of the seal is beyond the four corners of what the public was notified about?
Correct.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this section? Are we ready for the vote on the motion under Article 8? This requires a 2/3 vote. If I could ask my counters, the ones that I appointed tonight, all those in favor of the motion under Article 8, please rise. This is the entire Article 8.
Five.
5.
19.
19.
33.
33.
44?
44. And those opposed to the motion under Article 8?
One.
1.
I'm sorry, 2.
Oh, 2, excuse me, 2.
4,
4.
$16.
16.
23.
23. The vote being 101 in the affirmative, 45 in the negative, the motion carries. Business under, we have a motion to bring Article 9 from the table. So moved. So moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of taking Article 9 from the table, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will now take a motion on Article 9. This only requires a majority vote. So all those in favor of the entire motion on Article 9, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the motion carries. Now, Mr. Cool, did you have a motion?
Stephen Cool, Precinct 6. Mr. Moderator, I move that we take Article 2 off of the table, which involves instructional motions, of which we have at least 3.
Okay. Is there a second to that? Second. Okay, any further discussion by you?
I'm sorry, say again.
Do you have anything else? Do you have any more discussion, or are you all set?
Yes, I
Go
have
ahead.
things to say. For those of you who have read the instructional motions, it's clear that the 3 parties, myself included, who submitted the instructional motions, took a great deal of care to prepare them, and they're relevant to living in Reading. So I urge you to allow us to go ahead and consider those right now. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on taking them out of order? None appearing. It requires a majority vote. All those in favor of taking Article 2 out of order and taking it up right now, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the chair is in doubt. I'm sorry. All those in favor of taking it out of order, please rise.
Four.
4.
13.
13.
23.
23.
18,
18. And those opposed to taking it out of order, taking Article 2 out of order.
$10.
10.
16.
16.
17,
17.
31.
31. The vote being 58 in the affirmative, 74 in the negative, the motion does not carry. So we will now proceed to Article 10. The Town Forest Committee, who is speaking on this?
Mr. Mara, I believe Ms. Lusk from the Town Forest Committee is coming up to make a presentation.
Lusk?
Hello, Christine Lusk, member of the Town Forest Committee, also Precinct 5 Town Meeting member.
Could you speak closer to the microphone, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Christine Lusk, member of the Town Forest Committee, also Precinct 5 Town Meeting member. We've started. Okay. We have a lovely drone video looking at the town forest. The beauty of it. I believe Chris Haley took this video. So yes, the town forest has many opportunities: walking, hiking, mountain biking, cross-country skiing, bird watching, dog walking, camping, scouting, and group events. If you haven't been in there, I urge you all to come visit the town forest. It's a beautiful place to be. A healthy forest supports a healthy community. The town forest is a major recreation open space for our community. Its vitality supports our community, health, and our values. It's beneficial to our community for the carbon sequestration, the soil quality, the biodiversity, and the water cycle. Back in the 1930s, the town forest, there were several red pine trees planted there, and those trees reached the end of their life recently. So what the town did was we removed those trees before they fell and could injure people or catch fire or just cause destruction in the town forest. The emphasis now is on replanting those areas with native species so the town forest can continue to thrive. And here's just a look at what we've done for red pine removal over the last 5 years. So you can see every year we've gone into certain sections of the town forest to remove those red pines that were beyond their healthy life. With most recently, we removed 5.1 acres in 2025. Now, even without the removal of the pines, the town forest has many areas in New England. We have several invasive plant species moving in. The town forest has glossy buckthorn, Japanese knotweed, tree of heaven, and black swallowwort. They're firmly taking over in the town forest. And as many of you know, now that we've removed a lot of trees, there's a lot of empty space, and invasive weeds really like to take over empty spaces. So the next thing that we're trying to do as a town forest committee in the town, next slide, is we are trying to remove these invasive plants. And we have several volunteer initiatives. Most recently, we had a volunteer day with several members of the community that came out on their Saturday and helped remove these weeds. However, one thing to note is that there are certain components that volunteers cannot do. The volunteers cannot apply pesticides, and volunteers cannot use heavy machinery. So and you can see the town did also fund in 2020, over the last 5 years, but in 2025, removal of these invasive plants. And as you can see, the bids for the work that we received all exceeded the amounts that town meeting or the town had given to the town towards this work. So there's always a lot of work to be done to remove these invasive plants. And here's some pictures of some invasive plant removal work that was done, and then replanting. So there have also been some volunteer replanting efforts. The Scouts have their Trees for Reading Fund. We have had professional replanting. And then in 2025, in collaboration with the Reading Public Library and the DPW, we had a significant replanting volunteer day that was quite successful. And here are just some areas before and after. Here's Area 3 in 2022, as well as in 2025. Area 7 in April, as well as in August. You can see how much growth we had over that time. So in summary, the town forest is a major asset for Reading. Healthy forests support our healthy communities. The maintenance funding preserves the land for future generations and reduces future costs. This request for $50,000 is just 1/3 of the 2025 request. And over the last 10 years, we've requested between $100,000 and $150,000 per year. So we're trying to reduce the amount that we're requesting, but also just staying ahead of the invasive plants so that the town forest can continue to be a gem for all of us. And the town forest will continue to pursue grants and coordinate volunteer efforts, but professional funded management is needed. And some more pictures of the town forest. Just a slideshow. But are there any questions?
Before we do that, do we have a FinCom report?
Joe McDonough, Finance Committee Precinct member, Precinct 8 member. On October 15th, the Finance Committee met in recognizing the importance of the town woods and preserving as a natural asset, voted 8-0 to recommend the contents of this article to town meeting.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Mr. Sasso.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Sasso, Precinct 2. So I'm just curious, so you said the 50K was a third of the 150K that was in FY25. So was that in the budget or not in the budget to start from? Do you know I'm sure it may be more of a town accountant question, but.
That would probably be more of a town accountant question, or maybe we could have Mr. Cole from Public Works come speak to that.
Do we have an answer? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Are you asking if the 50,000 was not in the budget originally? Is that what you're asking?
Well, she just mentioned that there was a original request for 150K. I don't have the the FY26 budget in front of me. So I was just curious, so this additional funding request, was it, I just want to understand, was it planned or was it not planned? Because it sounded like you were expecting the need to have that 150K, which if it was budgeted originally would have been covered as part of the budget. So I'm just curious, why is this coming up now, or was it not included? Or again, I'm just trying to understand where this came from.
Well, the 150,000 request was what was planned at the time. This is an additional 50,000 for invasives, and the Town Forest Committee, I believe, is going to be looking for recurring requests for invasives going forward.
Okay, so this is above and beyond the 150K that was already in the budget for FY26. And so the follow-up question I have is exactly that. So how, is there a plan, and maybe this is a question for Matt, to address this in the future needs, to make sure we at least cover it within the budgetary, so we're not, after the fact. And I appreciate the efforts to go out and support other ways of getting funding, and I definitely think we have a very valuable asset with the town forest. I just want to make sure fiscally we're managing and planning for this.
Mr. Cornelius.
Yeah, so currently, if this were to be approved today, it would be paid from free cash. There's no budget for this right now. It could be added in the future to the DPW budget if the Town Forest Committee recommends that. We are trying to keep a very close eye on expenses these days, although this is an important issue. So we hear you as Chris prepares his budget. I'm sure he'll be talking to his committees, including the Town Forest Committee, to see what the needs are going forward. Right now, it's not a line item. It could be in the future.
Thank you for that. I actually think that's actually a really important point. So from a transparent and fiscal responsibility perspective, I would love to see it as a line item. We should actually plan for it if we are in fact going to make these investments. I would rather us do that as part of the overall budget process so we can see everything. This, as far as I'm concerned, this is not an unreasonable request given what you're trying to accomplish, but I really would like to see in the future that this, if this isn't a line item in the DPW budget, which is where I suspect it would fall, this is something that we probably should put in there, and then you can show the offsets and other things that you're doing for it. I think that would be a good place to cover it, is from so we can see it at April town meeting when we're going through the budgetary cycle, and not, because I'm asking the question now and I don't have the context in it. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Pilevsky?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Gena Pilevsky, Precinct 7. So you've mentioned that this is a third of what it would take to remove all of the invasive species, or just a part of the...
No, this would be a drop in the bucket for removing all of them. What we're trying to do is just maintain the areas where we have already removed the invasives.
Okay, thank you. And a follow-up to that then, when you're spending this, so I'm supportive of this. I'll be voting yes, absolutely. But my concern is that the invasive species is going to be spreading over time. So with the 50K applied this year, is that a Band-Aid, whereas a larger amount would actually allow us to push the invasive species back? Or is this sufficient for the time being fiscally conscious? Will this still remove enough, if you know what I mean?
I do understand the question. I'm going to head it back over to our director of DPW because he can probably speak more eloquently to that.
So your question is this more of a Band-Aid, and this is just to focus on a certain portion of the town forest, if you will, the invasives, and to try to keep, going forward with a future funding request each year for different sections of the forest to try to keep ahead of the invasives as they develop.
All right, so is this keeping the invasive species at bay, or are you winning the war against the invasive species with the 50K that you're asking for at this time?
This will be keeping the invasive species at bay. To completely eradicate them from the town forest would take a lot of money. So right now, what we're trying to keep them at bay and keep on top of as much as we can with volunteer hours, and probably next year we'll ask for additional funding. So we're trying to keep it at bay and chip away at it a little bit year over year. What we don't want to do is take the investment that we've made in the town forest and not keep it at bay and have those weeds really come back in. Yes.
Agreed. I guess from my perspective, it seems that this amount should be a little bit more than what you're asking for, but that's not really my decision to make. You've made this recommendation, so. And again, thank you for doing the cleanup.
Mr. Talbot.
Yeah, Dave Talbot, Precinct 5. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dave Talbot, Precinct 5. Thank you. Thank you very much for the work you're doing. Love the town forest, and it's obvious that this is needed because of neglect over many, many years there. And more investment in the town forest is a good idea. And I'm just curious, what is the wish list, or what would the big number be to do all the things that we need to do in the town forest, like rehabilitate the rotting boardwalks and have better access and do better trails? What is the number to do everything that you'd like to do?
I apologize. Our chair was here for the last 3 nights, and his wife is a few spaces behind you and can probably speak to that. He had to travel today, so he was not able to give the presentation. But it sounds like she might have an answer for us.
Yes. So please
step up. Thank you.
Hi, Nikki Lamson, Precinct 2. I completely agree with this motion. So my spouse, Jeff, is in Washington right now, so he apologizes for his absence. He said that the $50,000 is actually a part. He said that the $50,000 is actually a part of the $150,000 that the town forest actually requested for the fiscal year 2026. He said that they're making excellent progress right now, and that this is for maintenance purposes. So it is a part of the 50,000 is a part of the fiscal 2026, that amount. But he didn't say anything else.
Okay. So sorry, back to Mr. Talbot, your question. I don't know the magic number. I do appreciate everyone's enthusiasm for more money as opposed to less money. We went with $50,000, just being conservative. We didn't want to come to town meeting asking for too much money, being aware of where the budget is with the town. So I think our approach was, let's take a conservative amount to keep the weeds at bay, and not come back to town meeting and say, hey, can we have $200,000 to make everything perfect in the town forest, recognizing that our town does have various financial constraints right now.
Okay. I just wanted to say, I hope we find the money to do big things in the town forest, and that when we find we have extra money from projects that we didn't know we had, we think of things like this, where, how many acres is the forest again?
300.
300 acres, this beautiful asset that it's worth big money. It's worth, say, $300,000 a year. or more. Thank you very much.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you.
Hello, Martha Moore, Precinct 8, and I also happen to be Vice Chair of the Conservation Commission. I am strongly in favor of this motion. Any money we have spent working on getting rid of invasive species in the past will not have its full impact if we don't keep up with it. Thank you.
On the other side.
Nancy Doctor, Precinct 1, former member of the Town Forest Committee. And the town forest really only deserves that name recently. Mr. Talbot is correct. It's been ignored for decades. It was a pine plantation. It was not a forest. So the work that the town forest has done over the past several years is to create truly a forest with diversity. And because of climate change, the reason why those pines have been removed is because they were dead. They were a hazard. If you had walked in and you were anywhere near the Boy Scout camping site, it was a hazard. So some of those were removed. Other parts, I think that the drone didn't show really the devastation of the dead pines in huge parts of the town forest. So not only is this money necessary, we need to, as other speakers have said, we need to continue to make on an annual basis an investment. This is our gem. We put more money into repaving tennis courts than we do in something that every single citizen enjoys. During the pandemic, there was a surge of citizens who really discovered the town forest. It is used for passive recreation by everybody. Birders, dog walkers, families, camping, it's countless. This is a good investment. I support this, and I hope this comes back on an annual basis for us to support. Thank you.
Mr. Herrick?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Steve Herrick, Precinct 8. I have a question. If this gets too technical, you can take a pass, or maybe somebody can find their husbands on the phone again. These invasive species, I have a little bit of experience because I'm at that end of town, and there are some yards where they've taken over, and they're brutal. Some of them, in particular the Japanese knotweed, is just, it's unkillable. So I guess my question is, $50,000, I assume that we'd actually be spending that money on a combination of professional services that could remove some of these species and use the herbicides and maybe chainsaws and whatnot that you would use, as well as the materials that would, replanting of trees. Do I have that correct? Is that what that money would be spent on? Because we're largely leveraging volunteer help for a lot of this activity as well, which we'll try to stretch our dollars as much as we can. So I guess my question is, do we really have a strategy for actually removing these things? It sounds like we're fighting a war against this stuff, and we have to do it. But have they come up to, the professionals have ways of actually, if we wanted to remove it completely, is that even a possibility? Or are we stuck in an epic battle until we're all dead and gone, and we're still going to be fighting Japanese knotweed in the town forest? I'm just trying to understand where we stand in this thing.
I'm not an expert in weed removal. I think that, I know that if we had all the money in the world, we could remove all of the invasives that are there now, but I think they would continue to grow back. So I think this would continue to be, even if we remove them all today, they arrive there various ways. Birds flying overhead will drop seeds. So I don't think it's an option to say, yes, we're going to completely eradicate invasives from the town forest.
So you see this, and from your knowledge, and once again, please defer if you just don't know the answer to this, is it possible to construct an environment which is just inhospitable to these invasive species with native plants that would eventually sort of crowd them out? Or is there sort of a strategy in place to try to enact that over time? Or are we just going to continue fighting hand-to-hand combat here?
I know our goal is currently to reforest the areas where we've removed trees with native species that will do a better job combating the invasives. However, I am not the expert. I don't know. Do you want to speak to this, or?
We have a professional weeder who'd like to potentially address this.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, I don't believe there's really any true way to eradicate all the invasives. You know, they're always going to be coming
No,
back.
there is
So
not.
it's only a matter of just trying to stay ahead.
Yes. The problem is
Tell us
that
your name, I'm sorry.
Mary Parr, Precinct 5. I consider myself a professional weeder because I do it as a volunteer at my church garden. And the answer is you can pull them up, but you don't get all of the root. You can spray them, but that doesn't do much. You know, that if you pull them up like trees of heaven, they're going to come back. Same is true of knotweed. You can pull it up, but it's going to come. You can't possibly get all the root, and they will be able to grow a new knotweed plant the next year. So what you're doing is keeping them at bay, which is the best. I mean, I actually I know a way to do it, but it's not feasible. You dig a ring around and you remove most of the plant. You dig a ring around so it will, dig down a little bit, and you pour boiling water in there, and that will not come back. It kills them all the way down through the root. But I don't think that's feasible in the town forest. That's a lot of boiling water.
Okay, over on the other side. Yes. Yes.
Yes, good evening. My name is Tim Kerwin. I'm Precinct 7, and I'm also a member of the Town Forest Committee and have been a member of the Trails Committee. I can tell you that the invasive process is amazing, but it is manageable. Obviously, more money would accelerate the result, but we felt fiscally that it would be a good start point this year, given that we're transitioning from eradicating all the red pines, that we would build, to one of the questions, that we would build a full-blown program over the next 5 years to eradicate all of the invasives that we really need to get out of the forest, so that the local trees and all of those plants can survive, because they're getting strangled right now. So we need to get this first phase done and then move on for a master plan for the next 5 years.
Right behind you on the other side.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Amy Ward, Precinct 7. Can we move the question?
Is there a second? Second. It requires a 2/3 vote, so if I can have my counters help out. All those in favor of ending debate, please rise.
Nineteen.
19.
37.
37.
32.
32.
40.
40. And those opposed to ending debate?
One.
One.
1 and 1. Okay.
4.
2.
4 and 2. Okay, the vote being 128 in the affirmative, 8 in the negative. The question has been moved, and we will proceed directly to a vote on the motion under Article 10. Requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed, and the motion carries. Business under Article 11. Bylaw Committee?
Hello, everybody. Back again.
Just state your name to start with.
Jesse Arnold, Precinct 6. Chair of the Bylaw Committee. So this bylaw is about why does Reading need clear, safe walkways? So in 2022, at subsequent town meeting member Mary Parr made a motion by citizen petition to create a new bylaw, which required downtown business owners to clear their sidewalks of snow and ice after a winter storm. Then Bylaw Committee Chair Jeff Struble volunteered on the floor of the town meeting that the Bylaw Committee would investigate this request. The text of the citizen petition read, to see if the town will vote to require that owners of all commercial buildings, residences having 3 or more units, and parking lots in the downtown walking district shovel public sidewalks down to the hard pavement and prevent or remove icy conditions in the entire width of the sidewalk by 9 a.m. after any snowstorm. So in making the decision to bring this proposed bylaw to town meeting, the Bylaw Committee engaged in a discussion both amongst ourselves and with town council in the role of our committee with regards to town policymaking. We are generally a pretty neutral body. People come to us when they want help crafting bylaws. We don't generally bring them as often. So we were very deliberate in how we wanted to approach this. And what we agreed was that we wanted to keep the proposed bylaw narrowly tailored to the original intent of the citizen petition, as that is what had been brought to town meeting. In a series of public forums, we got great suggestions from residents, other areas we could consider, but for us, we always wanted to look at what was the original intent and what did we feel we were charged with. So prior to bringing the proposed bylaw change to town meeting, we had held 3 public forums between September and November of 2025. Reading has a lovely and walkable downtown area. It's enjoyed by residents and visitors. Many people use our sidewalks, including those who are handicapped or who have mobility issues. The goal of this proposed bylaw is to reduce the likelihood of pedestrian slips and falls during the winter months, and for those with mobility challenges to feel that they can adequately access the downtown area. The purpose of this is to make sure that the sidewalks are cleared after a storm and that they continue to be cleared during freeze and thaw periods throughout the winter. So these are 2 pictures I took of our downtown business district this past winter. You can kind of see that it was a little bit hazardous to walk around and access downtown. So what does this all actually mean? When it snows or there's other frozen precipitation, such as ice, sleet, freezing rain, property owners in the downtown smart growth overlay district must clear their sidewalks within 4 hours between sunrise and sunset and keep them clear of snow and ice, including what is caused when the snow melts and then refreezes. The cleared path must be a minimum of 42 inches wide to allow wheelchairs to safely use the sidewalks. When we were crafting this, we worked with DPW, and our intent, and in discussion with them, the plan is that this would be enforced through See-Click Fix, and that would alert DPW to inspect and determine if a property owner should be fined. The fine would not be directed at the owner of the business at the location, but rather at the property owner. If passed, this bylaw would take effect on November 1st, 2026. So what does this look like in real life? Somebody is downtown and they see a property within the downtown smart growth district and it's snowy, it's icy after a storm. They can use See-Click Fix, take a picture, upload it to the app, and that will then alert DPW. This then flags it to them and they will address this within normal business hours, and DPW or their designee will respond to this after they've finished other major snow clearing tasks. Nobody expects that DPW is going to be out there dealing with something like this while they're also trying to clear streets, schools, etc. That's a top priority. So one of the things that actually came out of one of our forums was a suggestion of, could DPW help out with this by placing barrels around downtown with the salt sand mixture that they put around schools and such, and they have agreed that if this passes, they will make these barrels available downtown so that that way it's even easier to keep things clear. So, is there precedent, and do other towns do this? Yes, there are other towns that have snow removal bylaws. Massachusetts general laws allow towns to create local ordinances regarding snow and ice removal. Many other towns, such as Wilmington, North Reading, Stoneham, and Wakefield, have bylaws which govern the removal of snow in their business areas. So this is what the neighboring towns do and who the responsible party is, what it applies to, and the actual bylaw section in their bylaws. So we got some questions about what is the town's liability in this. And we worked with town council when we were drafting this, and we were advised that there would be no negative impact on the town's liability because of the Massachusetts Tort Claims Act. So what part of Reading would this apply to? This would be everything that is within the purple section. And we chose the downtown smart growth district area because that kind of most closely matched what was proposed in the citizen petition. This was something that the town had already delineated, so it was kind of easier to do that rather than saying, well, let's go and we're just going to kind of randomly draw borders. So that was how we chose that. So this is the proposed bylaw. Section 8.15.1 gives the explanation of what is to be cleared, how and when. Section 8.15.2 makes sure that handicap ramps are also cleared. Section 8.15.3 explains where, when, and how permissible snow removal agents are chosen and published. Section 8.15.4 explains the enforcement and the effective date. And then this is an existing table, and this would insert into the existing table the fines, who would be the enforcing person, et cetera. This was something which initially we had well, at least when we created it, we also had RPD as an enforcing agency. And in our discussions with RPD, we decided that that might burden them too much to have to respond to something like this. So we have stricken them from this. So if you see, this may be one of the things you see, and we've now taken that out. So just wrapping it up, this bylaw represents 3 years of work, a lot of meetings, committee of 5 volunteers who worked on this for over 3 years. I'm very grateful for all of their help. I'm also very grateful for all of the residents, business owners, et cetera, who turned out to our public forums and gave us feedback. Some of it were things we were able to change. Some of it were things that were great ideas, but we felt went beyond the scope of what we were asked to do. Any questions?
Before that, do you actually have a vote, a bylaw report vote?
Oh, bylaw report. On October 8th, 2025, bylaw committee met and voted 4-0 to recommend this article to town meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll give this down.
Hi, thank you. Mary Ann Downing, Precinct 4. I have a question about that part where you crossed out the police, because I'm sorry, I apologize for my noise coming up on my iPad, but what I was opening it up to look up our general bylaw, and 1.6 of our bylaw, under 1.6.1, this just feels like crossing out the police is in conflict with that, because it says, "It shall be the duty of the police to enforce the provisions of this bylaw and to make complaint against any person violating the same. Prosecutions for offenses under this bylaw may be made by any police officer of the town, and all fines shall be paid in the town treasury." And my understanding is the section I'm reading to you is applicable to the whole bylaw, right? These are like the general provisions in Article 1 of our general bylaw. Right. So I guess maybe I'd like an opinion from Ivrea of how we can just cross out a police department and have it be in conflict.
Ms. Freed?
Thank you so much. So you're absolutely right that the police department has the ability to bring criminal penalties for violations of any provision in our bylaw. This section, section 1.8, deals with what we call section 21D, non-criminal disposition tickets. And so there's a separate statute that says these individuals that are identified can issue a non-criminal ticket. So in this case, the DPW has been empowered to issue tickets specifically for these violations, whereas the police would have to go that Section 21 route for enforcement. They can go the Section 21D route here.
So the police, though, could get involved in enforcement of this bylaw, like if someone didn't pay the fine or if the DPW was busy clearing snow?
So the police could get involved through the criminal disposition process, absolutely. Through the non-criminal ticketing process, they wouldn't necessarily have that authority here. That would be held solely by the DPW. If someone doesn't pay a 21D ticket fine, then the remedy is to go to court, and we would involve the police at that point.
So just, I'm curious because I wasn't able to, I think a lot of your sessions were similar to the turn back track kind of things, and I didn't attend any. Is anyone here from the police to weigh in on how much they're going to get involved with enforcement of this, or did they come to any of your meetings to speak to that? Do they have the time?
Mr. Cornelius?
Sure, yeah, I can add to that. The chief isn't able to come here tonight to the meeting. They don't really want to be involved in the enforcement of this, especially during snowstorms and what. They are busy. They don't really have the staffing to do that, and it's not appropriate for the parking control officer. So they are happy and satisfied with the DPW going through the ticket process and not having the full criminal ramifications that, you know, could come through the police department. So.
All right, thank you.
Yes, over here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joy Bolio, Precinct 7. Jesse, excuse me, could you go back to the Smart Growth District map in your presentation? Thank you. And I'm sorry, it's hard to read where those street signs are. Could you tell me, is that Main Street down the middle on the right?
So,
Like the largest one?
yeah, I should have a pointer. I don't. Yes, that is
Okay,
Main Street. Right
that's
there.
Main Street. Okay, so anything, I guess maybe towards Stoneham on this purple line, those are commercial properties as well.
The majority are, yes.
The majority of those are commercial properties. But we're only talking about clearing sidewalks within these purple boundaries.
Yes.
Okay, so anything along Woburn Street, anything closer to Stoneham, all of those properties, and anything north on Main Street is not included in this bylaw?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a couple of more things to say. Starting in the beginning, the owner of these properties is going to, if they get a fine, they're going to directly pass it along to their renters. This is not going to be, they're going to go, oh, okay, what a great idea. I think I'll pay that fine. So this is going to increase the cost of micro businesses like mine. The second thing is the handicap ramps. While I fully appreciate the DPW, and when they come by and they clear the sidewalks in that big machine that they have, when they get to the handicap ramps, we're lucky if there's about 3 feet of space that we can get through the 7 feet of snow that pile up from taking the corners. So anyone who is in charge of clearing snow from their own business and not a commercial management company can't get through that snow. So my business is across from the train, and I have 3 sides that I have to clear. And on those 3 sides, there's 3 handicap ramps. There was one year where I couldn't get my snowblower or shovel through what the DPW had left me. I would have been fined. I have elderly, I have people in wheelchairs that all come into my business. I could not get through that snow because of what was left behind. I'm perfectly willing to clear the snow, and I think it's a wonderful idea, but I don't support this article the way that it's written. I think that it is too restrictive for micro businesses, and I think that it should include all commercial properties in town. And then I'm a little iffy on whether or not to support the idea that they may be fined, because if maybe somebody works in town that doesn't really align with who they think I am and they know that that's my business, it's sort of up to them whether or not they fine me. I find that discretion a little uncomfortable. Thank you.
Hi, Alicia Williams, Marlin Lane. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I own a business that is on High Street, and I would maybe be for this if you hadn't just increased my commercial taxes. I think this is another tax. This will be now known as the snow tax for my business. I think that having residents have to snitch on other residents that their business is not cleared, you don't know, maybe they did clear the snow, and that $300 fine could add up in a New England winter to be $3,000, $5,000, and at the end of the day, that goes to me, and then it goes to all of you. So you're all going to pay an additional snow tax at the end of the winter. So I am against this, and I hope town meeting will vote this down, because it's just another way we're hitting small businesses. Thank you.
Hi, Jason Clark, Precinct 3, Vice Chair of the Bylaw Committee. One thing I want to emphasize, and this may not have been clear in the way, we don't actually have the writing of the bylaw up, but our impression, first off, it's not $300 right away, it's 100, it goes 100, 200, 300 in theory. the way we see this, first off, we sort of went through it, but here's how I can see one of these going. Someone submits a C-click fix because they see something's not cleared. The DPW gets that, and when they're able, which probably will not be for at least a few hours, possibly the next day, they'll go see. If it's not cleared at that point, they'll notify the property manager however they can, which I want to point out, I know at least the CVS property manager is a company in North Carolina, that this has happened and you need to do something about it. So my understanding, they have discretion, so there would be a warning. Then there would have to be another C-click fix. Someone else would have to say it within roughly the same time frame for this to continue going, and for EVAS to get even the range of actually assessing one of these. And I think to Joy's point, just to speak briefly back to that, I would hope if it was like very obvious that you could not expect an individual human being to clear this, then DPW, and Chris Cole wants to speak to this. I don't think he's here. Oh, is he? If you want to speak to this, maybe, that would be great. But my impression is this is not like, it's not like this, it's not clear, boom, immediately ticketed. That's not my impression of how this is supposed to work.
Do we have a response?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, we would evaluate each situation on a case-by-case basis. It's not a definite, we're going to immediately fine. Obviously, we're probably going to talk to the property owner first and then see, just remind them that it is their responsibility to, maintain the snow and ice on the sidewalk. And then, hopefully, that'll work and we can go from there.
Ms. Childers?
I don't know if I'm in the overlay district or
I just
not.
want to state your name first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ellen Childress, Precinct 3. Can you go back to the map of the overlay district? Okay. I live on Green Street, and at Green and Village, the handicap ramp is regularly where the plows shove the snow where kids are supposed to wait for school. It's been that way for quite a while. And I agree that some of the snow that the plow leaves is impossible for some people to remove. There are private owners within that overlay district who live in their house, right? Yes or no?
Do we have an answer?
Yes, there's a small number.
A small number. Whether they're a small number or not, there are private individuals who live there. If you contract with somebody, they come when they can, and they're usually doing many places. They do it once in a day. And it's so, and the other thing is, why the thing with the manage to not hurt the sidewalk? And some of the sidewalks aren't even that wide, as it says, like 48 inches.
42.
I'm pretty sure. Because I know between my retaining wall and the tree in the front, I don't think there is 36 inches.
I think obviously if there's not a 42-inch sidewalk. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
The,
it's not there. That's not it.
the intent of the request was for businesses, and I'd like to see this amended somehow to make it business owners with respect to people who are limited in capacity, and I am one of them, to go clear regularly.
Do you have a response down here?
There were a couple things there. One was that, so with regards to the materials, DPW, it was a part of a discussion of we also want to make sure, first of all, that what's being put down is not harming the sidewalks. It's going to cause any damage to them. Also, environmental concerns of runoff, stuff like that. Okay, so the bylaw reads, conducted in a manner that clears the full paved path or a minimum of 42 inches. So if it's less than 42 inches, it would just be the entirety.
Okay, but I do request that it be to business owners, and that plowing for the town then don't shove snow up in huge mountains on the corner. I mean, the other thing is, by having it just during the day, one of the most dangerous times to not have the sidewalks cleared to be passable is at night. So think about that.
I think that part of the, why we set the time limits kind of when we did is we didn't want people feeling that they needed to be out there shoveling at like 2 a.m. to clear things. Obviously there's concern of any, noise disruption of people living in some of the apartments and condos downtown. So that was why I recognized that, yes, at night it is gonna, if the temperatures drop, it is gonna be icier, but kind of trying to strike a balance.
That's when a car might not see you and hit you. Thank you.
Over on the other side?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Amy Ward, Precinct 7. I don't support this. I feel that this is a huge burden and we don't have the town resources to enforce any of it. I feel that, with the utmost respect for our DPW, thank you for doing everything that you can to keep our roads and our sidewalks safe, but even they couldn't handle the Birch Meadow area this winter. And that was icy and treacherous for like a week and a half. It was awful, and people were falling. So if our own DPW can't handle that, I don't understand how some of these businesses who are operated by a single person sometimes can handle the winter that we just had. Thank you.
Mr. Struble.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jeff Struble, Precinct 7. I was the bylaw chair when this was started, but they've taken over and I think done a wonderful job, so I'm not going to try and say I'm kibitz on that point. I'm going to talk as a member of the former member, I guess, the business district up in Reading Center. I had my office for 20 years at the very center of Reading, an intersection of Main Street and Haven. And for 20 years, I would try to navigate those sidewalks. And I can tell you, I won't name names, but there are habitual offenders, if you will, who never remove the snow from their sidewalks. And it was treacherous as could be to get by them. This is first and foremost a public safety issue, not an imposition on businesses. Really, if you as a business cannot in your lease negotiate this with your landlord, it is a landlord issue. It is not a business issue. If you can't get the landlord to clear the sidewalks, then there's got to be something wrong. My landlord almost never cleared the sidewalks. Yours truly was out there with a shovel, along with other businesses, clearing the sidewalks so people could get by. But I took great umbrage at the fact that the landlord never did it. So I support this wholly, and I think the town should too, because it's not about the businesses, it's not about the owners, it's about the people who use the sidewalks. And they should be safe and be guaranteed safety, especially in this district, because they're there all the time. That's where a lot of the foot traffic is. So I strongly support this article, and I hope the other members do too. Thank you.
Mr. Sasso.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Sasso, Precinct 2. So I guess in general, I don't support this article. I certainly don't agree with legislating good behavior. I think Mr. Struble makes an interesting point as someone that actually did have a business downtown years ago. I do think it's a landlord-tenant thing, and I definitely believe that the downtown definitely should be safe during the winters. But I have a number of questions and issues with this I want to talk about. First, I saw in this particular 815.1, it's not that this requirement is after a storm. It's after such slush, snow, and ice has come upon the sidewalk by whatever means, meaning if we had snow on the roof and it was a 50-degree day and the water melted down into the sidewalk and the next morning it froze, even if there was no storm, this now would become a requirement based on the way this is written. So I'm curious from DPW's perspective, I just heard you talk about the flexibility. Is there some sort of training that you're going to put together about how to enforce this? Ms. Downing mentioned that, police enforcement, obviously those folks go through rigorous training about how to address these sorts of issues. Is there some plan for training in place for the public works folks that are going to be responsible for enforcing this? That would be my first question. How do we downtown, sometimes I go down there and the streets still have snow on them. And so you try to go in your park on the sidewalk or park next to the sidewalk and you're up on top of a snowbank, and now we're going to have people. How do we make sure, is DPW going to take some responsibilities for, on a regular basis, getting the snow and ice off those places so that it does allow the businesses to clear the sidewalks? I see somewhere in the bylaw something about setting specific chemicals that can be used. Who's responsible for that?
Sorry, Ms. Sasso, if I could interrupt, sorry, Jason Clark, Bylaw Committee, Precinct 3. Could we start with the first question and then go on so we can?
Sure.
Or do you want to go through them all right away?
Is someone going to be responsible for being trained?
Do you think you could speak
with
to that?
DPW in terms of what to look for and how to enforce this bylaw in some specific manner?
Yeah, we still have to work out final logistics, but most likely what will happen is, as you heard, the C-Click Fix will come in. Someone, whether myself or my assistant director, someone from DPW will go out and look at the sidewalk. And then if it's a business, we'll most likely work with the Economic Development Department, who have good relationships with the businesses to talk to them and make them aware of, their responsibility to.
Not the business, property owners. Sorry.
Okay.
While you're there, does DPW have a policy for pulling snow off the street? So I know on a number of occasions downtown I've seen DPW come down and literally do snow removal on certain occasions, but on other occasions not. Is there some decision tree about that? Is that a policy from a town perspective about going down there and pulling snow off the streets?
Pulling snow off the streets when?
So downtown, after the plows come through and they basically put all the snow on the parking spaces, then I want to go down and park there. I'm basically on top of a snowbank. But sometimes I see the town goes down there with a front loader and pulls the snow up. Is there some policy about that you guys have? Is that something that you'll start to do more? Is that going to be a commitment on your part so that the businesses also see that this isn't just on them, it's on us as a town as well to provide a place? If we want to encourage people to go downtown, then we should have a consistent way of approaching this?
There's no definitive policy in place. We just look at each storm individually, and when we see that the snow is accumulating enough so that it's starting to impede the travel lane or the parking lane, then that's when we go in overnight and remove the snow when we have to.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you said is there going to be a list of specific chemicals put together for?
There will be, yes.
Okay. I heard someone talk about during this meeting that we were talking about putting barrels of salt or sand down on in the town. I would still do that, whether this motion passes or not, by the way. I would still like to encourage, you mentioned the Economic Development Commission. I think there's definitely, if you haven't already, it sounds like you engaged them to a certain extent, but this is a situation where that would be the group to go to and say, let's figure out how to do this. What are the things that we can do as a town to improve things down there? If businesses don't clear their sidewalks, I hate to say this, then customers should not go, because it isn't safe for them. But I definitely think that the town can do some things on its side to make it better for them, and then also encourage them and find ways to make sure that does get done on a regular basis. I think this is a bit of a hammer on a problem that, yes, exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm not sure this is one that I would approve. And the last comment I'll make, someone also mentioned, why don't we do this for the entire town? The downtown is not the only area where we have issues. We do some clearing of sidewalks in certain parts of town for schools. We just heard about Birch Meadow and those areas. So this is an area where I'm still not in support of this. I definitely think the town should find ways to make improvements to the situation, but I don't believe the bylaw is the appropriate approach. Thank you.
Mr. Gardino.
Philip Dardino, Precinct 3. I lived in Everett till I was 9. I moved to Burlington. I lived in Burlington till I was 18. I moved to Worcester. I lived in Worcester for 4 years. I moved to Malden. I moved to Melrose. I moved to Billerica. I moved to North Reading. And I've lived here in Reading. I don't understand why this is an issue. Everywhere I've ever lived, this is exactly what every town has ever done. Why shouldn't businesses clean the front of their buildings? I can't even believe we're discussing this, or people are offended by it. For God's sakes, there are elderly people walking the streets. They should walk it in safety. And if you can't ask a vendor to clean in front of his house, now how's he going to do this? Oh my God, how's he going to do this? He's going to pay somebody. He's in business. He's going to pay somebody to come and shovel in front of his business. This is done in I've worked in Boston all my life. This is done in every community I've ever been in. I can't even believe we're talking about it. But I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm very sorry. I can't believe we're speaking about it. I'm done. Thank you very much. Mr. Talbot?
Hey, Dave Talbot, Precinct 5, thank you. And you've moved on from moving the question. Thank you, Phil. I have a couple of questions. I live on Linden Street, and often when during the heavy snowstorms, the town has a sidewalk plow that goes around, but in some streets, what is that program? What streets does it cover? Because it does go around in parts of these areas. Who is that guy that does that?
There is a sidewalk plow. There's a sidewalk plow route on the town webpage, but I am going to defer to DPW to actually explain how that's chosen.
So Public Works currently plows over 50 miles of sidewalks, and those include most sidewalks in the downtown area and school walking routes. So where on Linden Street?
Between Woburn and Lowell. And sometimes he does it and sometimes he doesn't.
I would have to look at a map and see. I mean, if it's on our route, then it should be done every storm, but yeah.
I mean, it's covering, and it's down on Woburn Street too, and I think it goes down Linden to Haven, so in front of the funeral home. So some of this is being done by the town, so I just was curious how it fits in, and if you're going to enforce against some people, but meanwhile the town is paying to do some of those blocks already. It's just trying to understand how these things fit together.
Well, I mean, the town's still going to plow the sidewalks that we currently do, but it's just a matter of when, after the storm, we can get out there and get them plowed, once we get all the roads done. But the biggest part of it is the day-to-day treatment, when the sidewalks freeze up. That's what we don't have the resources to manage.
Okay. Well, my other big question is just, if this is a good idea, why isn't it a good idea on South Main Street in front of, for example, Burger King, Bagel World, Starbucks, and other businesses down south? Why, if it's a good idea, why isn't it a good idea on South Main?
So 2 things I want to address. First, thank you to Chris Cole for answering. One of the things that we talked about when we met with them, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm misstating this, is that the sidewalk plow, I don't believe, can get all the way to bare pavement, can it? Right. And so it kind of leaves a little film behind, and that's kind of also what part of it is this film that gets left behind can get very icy. So that's kind of part of helping deal with it. It's the idea that the town is coming through, they're making that initial pass, and it's the kind of help cleaning up what they can't get and then dealing with the freeze thaw. I certainly hear you about why does it not apply to the rest of Main Street. Other people brought this up at forums. Like I said, we very intentionally stuck to what was in the citizen petition. we had a lot of very thoughtful conversations amongst our committee about what is our role in creating policy, and we felt that we really wanted to stick very tightly and narrowly to what was brought to us. And that is why we chose what we did, was because it was the best kind of delineated area that fit with what was brought to us. So otherwise, it becomes us drawing borders. I mean, we had questions about why are you not enforcing this around schools? This was something that the town had already defined as an area, and it fit most closely with what came to us.
But I mean, that designation is an intensive zoning. It doesn't, which is mostly housing, by the way. It doesn't really relate to where businesses are so strictly. So the borders don't make any sense, actually. I mean, no offense, but they don't. I mean, because there's businesses all over South Main, and there's businesses up at Franklin and Maine, and so. And
I get that, but then it just, but for us, we were kind of looking at the kind of, like I said, I mean, I understand that the zoning, designation isn't necessarily what makes sense, but that was kind of what fit with what we'd been given. And then if, just for kind of hypothetically, if we go beyond that, then, okay, is it all of any business on Main Street? Do we extend to any businesses anywhere in town? It was just, we went with kind of the narrowest definition of everything.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to adjourn, sine die. All right, I will accept that motion if there is a second, but before we do that, I need to explain, if you do that, we will not vote on this article, and we will also leave 3 instructional motions on the floor. So is there a second to the motion to adjourn sine die? Second, okay. All those in favor of adjourning sine die, please raise your hand. And those opposed? The motion does not carry. Ms. Brucolacchio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sarah Brucolacchio, Precinct 4. Can you put the map back up for the downtown smart growth, please? I just want to build upon what was mentioned by Mrs. Childress, and also David kind of brought it up as well. There's something like 32 residential properties just right in the area of Green Street, Ash Street, and Gould Street. So so I really think that the residential property owners should not be part of this. I think it should be just the business and the commercial properties. And so if you can go back to your article, I guess I would suggest an amendment to say, well, wait till you get back there. The owner or manager of any business or commercial property abutting a sidewalk. Or if there's another way to say no, not residential.
Just to kind of respond to that, if you just say business or commercial, you also take out any multifamily housing like condo buildings, et cetera.
But those would be a business, wouldn't they?
I would defer to town council on that definition.
Ms. Freed?
I wouldn't read business or commercial to include a large condo building or a mixed use,
So then-
necessarily a mixed use.
So should I say residential 1 and 2 and 3 family?
It's a policy decision for this body. If that's what you would like to say, you can say that.
Can I just say residential? Oh, you're saying that includes condos?
Yes, a condo is a residence.
Okay.
Well, unless it's a business condo.
So then I would say residential 1, 2, and 3 family. Because I don't think that was the point, that those people are.
So do you mean the owner or manager of any property excluding single family, 2 family, or
And
3 family residential buildings?
Is that the way you want your motion? Okay, is there a second to that? Second. All right, we will now begin discussing the proposed amendment. Is there, if you aren't going to speak on that, just step aside and I'll try to keep the order when we get back to the main motion.
Sorry.
Ms. Fried?
Sorry, can we add a comma after buildings? If that can be accepted as a friendly amendment? Thank you.
I'm just going to accept that. Should be in there. Okay, anybody want to discuss this proposed amendment? Okay. We'll take a vote.
Hi, Carrie Perry, Precinct 6. I think we're hearing a lot of different examples from businesses in the area and then also residents in the area. And I think because this is even before us, we're clearly not keeping up with this as a town. I think we're hearing that with the plowing that may be done on the street, that could affect the ability to clear the handicap ramps. I think, you know, if we're changing this to only include certain areas, I think that would take away from the intent that's here as well, to have the whole district be clear of snow, so that people can continuously have access and not have access for a block and then not be able to continue on. I do have a legal question in regards to this amendment, because it seems to be even more singling out certain people. Can we legally or ethically require residents or businesses to clear handicap ramps on a fixed timetable if the town's own plowing schedule makes compliance to that physically impossible?
Ms. Fried?
I can answer the legal question, and the answer to that is yes. You can require individuals to clear snow on the public sidewalk. That is permitted under General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21.
Thank you.
Ms. Bolio?
You got on the amendment? Sorry.
Oh, Mr. Pacino, I don't know.
Yeah. Phil Pacino, Precinct 5. I'm just curious, because I know on Haven Street, the units that are above those stores are actually a condo association. So does this now, does this now work that that particular area is no longer included in the area? Because those are residentials above those stores.
Ms. Fried?
So I'm going to look over here, but my understanding with the Haven Street property is that there's more than 3 condos there, and that it's also a mixed-use structure because there's a commercial space on the ground floor. So they would not fall within the exemption that that's being proposed with this motion, with this amendment.
Ms. Bolio?
I'm opposed to this amendment strictly because if you're walking in any of these little streets, you're going to walk from a cleared commercial property to maybe a non-cleared single-family or two-family or three-family, which are really sprinkled in and around that area. So I would be opposed to this amendment.
Ms. Janowski?
Oh,
you're waiting.
I'm not speaking on the amendment.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Ms. Brucolacchio?
Sarah Brucolacchio, Precinct 4. I just want to point out that the people that I'm aware of on Green Street and in that area, they generally, a number of the people are good neighbors and they'll snowplow. I'm not saying that they're not going to clear the sidewalks and present a hazard. I'm just saying they shouldn't be subjected to a fine. They shouldn't be part of this greater idea of fining people. I mean, they're like any other suburban part of Reading that usually a lot of neighbors who have the snow blowers will go around and offer to do a neighbor and that sort of thing.
There's one down here. Somebody raise a hand on the front. Mr. Haley? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chris Haley, Select Board. I guess I'm just confused on the amendment because I believe the original intention of this was safety and security in the downtown and all of that, and I'm not sure where the person in the wheelchair is deciding to skip a bunch of residences in this portion. Why is that okay for them to be able to skip this? And why should only business owners be fined instead of the residents that aren't shoveling either? I just don't understand. The intention is to make the downtown area more safe and readily passable after storms and all that. So why are we skipping people from actually in that area from being imposed on this?
Ms. Brucolacchio?
Hi, Sarah Brucolacchio, Precinct 4.
I'm not saying that I'm intentionally skipping. First of all, the sidewalk on Green Street is about 30 inches wide. You could never get a wheelchair down Green Street. It's one of the narrowest streets in the town. And second of all, as I just said, the sidewalks are always cleared. I'm saying don't fine these residential people. I don't think they should be part of the fining of the downtown. And Green Street is largely a residential street, just like that chunk of Ash Street, and just like a portion of Gould Street before the condo area.
So you're comfortable with finding business owners, but not the residents that would be doing the exact same thing, just so we're clear.
I think that the instructional motion that started this whole ball rolling was about keeping the downtown area safe.
Correct.
And when I think of the downtown area, it's Haven Street, it's Main Street, it's parts of Washington High Street, that sort of thing. There's no stores on Green Street. I mean, it's just purely residential. I don't think anybody had a concern about making sure Green Street, met the standards of Haven Street. I think, I think the street should be safer. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I don't think using the downtown smart growth district, zoning is the right way to go about this.
I agree with you that streets there should be safer, as well as the entirety of Reading, Massachusetts. Not specific to this. This seems punitive, and now it's being singled out on business owners specifically to be able to shovel.
Okay.
Mike.
It's time to move on. I don't want just back and forth between two people. Okay, Ms. Childress?
Ellen Childress, in regard to your question, why have it limited to the business district at all then? My problem with it is the type of restrictions you have on it and the hours and everything that way. Yes, you're still responsible for getting your sidewalks cleared as best you can. But it's also because the DPW is dumping huge piles of snow on the handicap ramp. And that's why the request was for businesses in the original petition.
Okay. Are we ready for a vote on the proposed amendment? The amendment is what is in red on the screen. Yes vote accepts the red, a no vote does not. All those in favor of the proposed amendment, please raise your hand. And those opposed, motion does not carry. We're back to the main motion again. Ms. Janowski?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have some questions about this. Karen Janowski, Precinct 2. I wonder about the enforceability of it, especially when you look at the line that says shall be performed within the first 4 hours between sunrise and sunset. It's not like snowfall is a one-time event. It can happen all day long. So what does the enforcement of that really look like? And does there need to be a minimum amount of snow to then call into question, that this is when we want to enforce? The other thing, I've driven down Haven Street many times after snowstorms and Main Street, and it's impassable because the DPW has cleared the road, but all of the snow is pushed onto the sidewalks. And it's very thick, heavy snow. And we're putting that burden on the business owners. We always talk about shop local. We always want to support the local businesses. But I'm wondering if this passes, which I'm against it in this current format. But one of the things we have to think about is the DPW is creating a more difficult situation for our small business owners because of the work that they have to do. But what it does is it pushes the compacted snow onto the sidewalks and onto the areas in front of the businesses. So I'm wondering, there is those sidewalk, whatever they're called, the sidewalk clearers. And maybe it's that the priority should always be the schools, but also the downtown area to be safe. So I'm worried about this is onerous and punitive on our small business owners, and I also wonder about the enforceability of what that means the first 4 hours. Because it could snow all day long, or it could snow all night, and then how do you then enforce that? And then, as someone mentioned, snow can fall off of a roof and melt, and then it gets cold at night, and so then it's icy. And the other thing too is, what if you can't even get out of your own driveway because of the snow issue, and then you're supposed to rush down within those first 4 hours and make sure that the sidewalk in front of your business is clear? I just question the enforceability of this, and I don't want it to be so punitive on our small business owners. And as a small business owner myself, although I don't have a retail space, I worry about those kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Jason Clark, Vice Chair of Bylaw Committee and Precinct 3. One thing I do feel like gets lost a bit here is we're not talking about, I understand the small businesses may end up, certainly feel as if they are responsible for this, but in our minds, this is about the property managers, not the small businesses. I understand perhaps that's a naive way to look at it, but for example, as I mentioned, CVS is owned by some company in North Carolina. They would be the people who would be contacted to say, hey, you're not cleaning this. At least as I understand how this works. That's the only thing I want to point out.
Mr. O'Connor.
Tom O'Connor, Precinct 8, longtime business owner downtown. Question to the committee. What was the response from the local Chamber of Commerce? And I refer to them because I know they would be impacted on something like that when you involve them.
We did not work with the Chamber of Commerce. I would defer to the town manager because the Economic Development Office did reach out to businesses.
Mr. Cornells?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know directly if the chamber was involved or not, or if they even get involved with things like this. We do have an economic development director that's reached out to businesses and is our liaison to the business community and been working through him. So.
My point is, being a business owner downtown, I know we're very sensitive about the business, and we're not going to get our customers in unless the sidewalks are clear. I've been downtown as a business for a long time, and I've noticed a lot of the businesses do clean their sidewalks. Are there exceptions? Yes, there are. The picture, however, I think deferred was somewhat incorrect in the sense that it indicated the sidewalks were blocked, but I think that if you take a good look at that picture, it's just one business that had not addressed that situation. But I think overall downtown that the businesses do want to cooperate with the town and the townspeople, because not only is it going to help the town, but it's also going to help their business. I also think, like many people have already spoke, I think the enforcement, I think, is a very difficult item. And overall, I think if we're going to move forward, this really is a problem, whether this passes or not. I think communication among the Chamber of Commerce and the businesses downtown, speaking for myself, I know that we would be glad to address this issue. Thank you.
Ms. O'Neill.
Mary Ellen O'Neill, Precinct 6. I'm really happy to see this bylaw being put forward because I think it's long overdue. I see it as the start, as an experiment to see how we can do with this, and I hope it will be expanded. I think there are issues, especially the corners, that need to be addressed going forward. But this is a good place to start. And I think in terms of enforcement, I don't see as our DPW being overly punitive. It's about education, consciousness raising, and learning how to be better citizens. And if we don't make a change, I think if we do make this change and we get behind this and make an effort, it'll become what's expected. And we need to change what our town expects with regard to snow removal and accessibility. So I hope everyone will vote for this. Thank you.
We'll run this up.
Crystal Hudson McCarthy, Precinct 5.
I'm a small business owner in downtown. I'm actually responsible for 5 properties in downtown. I personally shovel them. But I feel like we as a business community, I think, support this. We want our customers to be able to get into our businesses safely. But this is almost, I feel like we're working up against, we keep reflecting back on CVS and they're not even here, and that, is this going to change that? Is there a way to make it enforceable that if DPW comes in after 3 enforcement issues and they clear them and we're now finding them $500 instead because they're just not caring?
Ms. Reed?
Thank you. So Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21D sets the cap, the total cap that you can fine someone for a bylaw violation at $300 per day. So the maximum amount we can do would be $300. You can do that every single time the violation occurs. So they can add up, they can stack, but you can't ticket them for $500,000. That'd be in violation of the law.
Can we ticket them and clean it though? So the whole purpose of this is to make it walkable. So if they're not going to clean it, and they're going to just take that slap every time, and we're still not cleaning the sidewalk. And I mean, CVS is a pretty important part of our downtown community too, for what it's utilized for.
Yes, there's no way to recover town staff time. You can't then give them the ticket and bill them for the time that it took the staff to clear that sidewalk, if that's the question that you're asking through this bylaw mechanism.
Thank you.
Yes.
Correct. Jason Clark, Vice President, Bylaw Committee and Precinct 3. Just to mention, I think Medford actually does that. Medford, if someone doesn't shovel, Medford does it and charges them.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alicia Williams, Precinct 8. I actually just heard you say that the max you can ticket someone is $300 a day. Is that correct?
Ms. Reed?
So it's $300 per violation. I think that it would be difficult to assert that there are multiple violations in one day of this bylaw. That's something we could investigate, but my initial impression is that we would be ticketing $300 per day.
That answers my question. So I would love anybody who would know, how much is a snowplow? How much does it cost to bring somebody in to plow? If I'm CVS, I'm like, hell with it. I'm not going to pay. Just let the town find me, let them do it. So I think you're actually causing another issue where people are just not going to shovel because they're just going to get a bill and Reading will do it for them. So just food for thought.
Yes.
Ryan Johnstone, Precinct 7. You had mentioned looking at what other neighboring communities do. Do we know if, and I don't know if you were able to find out, do we know if this has actually corrected anybody's behavior in other towns? Like, how well does this actually work in other towns? Not just that they have them, but how well do they actually work?
I mean, I know, Jesse Arnold, Bylaw Committee Chair. We've looked at their bylaws. I don't know how it actually, except with the exception of Medford, which has a very lengthy, very user-friendly webpage about it, where they do tell you that, like, if you do not shovel, they will shovel for you. And they also give you names of people who do shovel.
So I think I'm going to be voting against this also. I've lived in a bunch of cities. I'm also used to the idea that you have to clear it up or get fined or something. Part of my big issue with this, honestly, this might be one of the few times where maybe a more vague requirement might have been better. You know, keep your public area within a walkable, make it habitable within a reasonable time. I think with an effort with how strict we're being here, how precise, I think it's going to cause a lot of confusion for people and may end up, as others have mentioned, may actually be backfiring and may end up, we're shifting a lot of psychic energy and stress to people to try and comply with stuff that's, quite frankly, a little bit vague, in my opinion.
Just to explain, we did look at what a lot of other jurisdictions do statewide in crafting this bylaw. I mean, I can't even tell you how many we looked at, well over a dozen. I think the 5 of us divided it up, and probably everybody came up with 4 or 5 different cities, towns, et cetera, around the state. And our drafting was intentionally very explicit, just because it becomes very subjective, and especially when you're talking about fines, we didn't want it to be subjective as to, well, what is considered passable. Like what, you know, an able-bodied person considers passable may be different from somebody with mobility issues, and that's why we very intentionally worded it as we did.
It's hard. No, I can appreciate the difficulty, and I guess my concern is just, you know, with an effort to do it, I'm not sure we well defined it then, that people can actually understand how to really comply with this. So people talked about within 4 hours of when this comes, sunrise to sunset. Downtown, I mean, it's going to get dark now at 4 o'clock. People are still going out 5, 6, or 7. Like, I'm not sure it necessarily addresses the problem that's sought to be that's sought to be addressed, and I'm not sure a lot of people understand fully how to comply with this. So,
Just real quick, Jason Clark, Precinct 3 Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just again, I just want to re-emphasize our thought on this. I think people tend to think these kind of laws are like violation, instantly clicks in, boom, you're fined, and that is not at all how this works. As we mentioned, first off, someone has to see it and send it into See Click Fix. I don't have a sense of how often that kind of thing happens. I think I've done See Click Fix maybe twice on potholes. But first, an individual has to do that. Second, DPW has to get there, and when they get there, it has to not be cleared at that point, and they may not be there for a day. At that point, DPW has to choose, the first thing they're going to do, I'm going to guess, is speak to the property owner before they do any kind of fine. And the first fine's going to be 100, not 300. 300 is the limit after a few violations. I think it's going to be highly unlikely that that happens very often. And I think that what will end up happening is it will generally work on the serial violators as it's basically intended to do.
Mr. Gardino?
Phil, excuse me. Phil Dardino, Precinct 3. Move the question.
Is there a second? Second, this is a motion to end debate. It requires a 2/3 vote. I would ask my counters to help out. All those in favor of ending debate, please rise.
I guess we should weigh in. We're in. Stand.
20.
20.
32.
32.
27.
27.
37.
37. And those opposed to ending debate?
1.
1.
3.
3.
3.
3.
3.
3. The vote being 116 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative. The question has been moved, and we will proceed directly to a vote on the motion. So the motion under Article 11 requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the chair is in doubt. All those in favor of the motion under Article 11, please rise.
Yeah.
4.
4.
12.
12.
25.
25.
20.
20. And those opposed?
Five.
5.
26.
26.
20.
20.
17.
17. The vote being 61 in the affirmative and 68 in the negative, the motion does not carry. Now we have one more article in front of us, Article 2. Is there a motion to take it from the table? Is there a second? Second. Okay, we have also, that takes precedence, so we have a motion to adjourn sine die. Again, I would say that it would leave 3 instructional motions unvoted upon, but you have the right to do that. Motion to adjourn sine die ends this meeting completely. Now, all those in favor of adjourning sine die, please raise your hand.
Point of order.
And those opposed? And the motion does not carry. Did you have a point of order, Mr. Cole?
I was simply going to say that if we adjourned at this point, this would be the third
I believe, the third meeting in a row that we have ignored all or some of the instructional motions.
Okay, we now have a motion to take Article 2 from the table. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 2 is taken from the table, and we have 3 instructional motions. The first is, what do you want to do again?
Point of order.
Is there a point of order?
We can't hear what's going on. We'd appreciate being part of the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, there was a question of whether or not people had time to vote on taking it from the table. So I will take that again. All those in favor of taking Article 2 from the table, which means we would bring up the instructional motions, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the motion carries. We will take Article 2 from the table, and the first motion is Mr. Cool.
Stephen Cool, Precinct 6. In recent years, the town has taken 2 properties, foreclosed on 2 properties for non-payment of real estate taxes. This is very unusual. People with whom I've spoken can't recall the last time this happened. Both of these properties were worth several $100,000, for maybe $400,000 or $500,000 each. The first property that I'll mention was owned by Mr. Peter Davenport. He has early onset dementia. He had dyslexia from youth. He didn't understand what was going on for the years between 2008 and 2014. He was unable to understand what the situation was, what the implications were. His mental capacity was such that our treasurer, who spent a great deal of time with him, would believe that she had an agreement for him to pay his taxes. And as I understand it, he would seem to be a person, with good intellectual capability and understanding, yet he did not understand what was going on. Even as foreclosure and even as the day of eviction was on him, he still didn't understand what the situation was. His property was taken, and the excess that was left over after the auction and sale of the property was $219,000 after the town got the back property taxes, and the town was allowed the expenses of making the sale, which were about $30,000. So there was an excess of $219,000 of equity that Mr. Davenport, I'm sorry if I said Davidson, Mr. Davenport should have received after the sale from the town, yet the town has kept the money. Another situation with Mr. Mark Milley is that when his father passed away, Mr. Milley did not know that there was equity in the property, that he was due something. So after the probate happened, the town kept, if I understand correctly, maybe $300,000 of excess equity without returning it to Mr. Milley. There's a term for this. It's called equity theft. In 2023, the U.S. Supreme, well, I should actually say that a federal court found in favor of Mr. Davenport, the first gentleman with dementia. The case against the town for Mr. Milley was put on hold by agreement between the legal entities of each party until it was seen how the Davenport case would turn out. So after the federal court ruled in favor of Mr. Davenport, awarding him $219,000 and some dollars, the town appealed the verdict, despite the fact that the Supreme Court had already ruled over a year before that equity theft was unconstitutional according to the Takings Clause, according to the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. The town has kept these monies. After the verdict against the town was made, the town appealed the verdict. That was overturned in one day. May 8th, the town and Mr. Davenport's attorney went to a hearing on the appeal, and that is, a verdict on that is still pending. What this motion, if passed, would compel the select board to do is to make restitution to Mr. Davenport and Mr. Milley. My understanding is that the funds for this are held in free cash and are thereby available and not otherwise encumbered for other expenses of the town. Mr. Davenport is in need of whatever monies he can get, because he will need greater and greater care as time goes on. His family only realized that he had early onset dementia well into this process. And they appeal to us to vote for this instructional motion. I appeal to everyone here to vote for it. It is right, it is decent, moral, and ethical to give these people, these two gentlemen, back the money that, in a sense, the town doesn't deserve to have. It was simply kept by the town. A mediation occurred after the verdict. The attorney for Mr. Davenport, the attorney for the town, agreed upon a number much less than $219,000. It went to, as I understand it, executive session for the select board. They turned it down, leaving the appeal open. Now, if the town loses the appeal, it will have to pay the $219,000 and some dollars. It will have to pay interest from the date of the verdict, which is now about 13 months. There will be additional legal expenses because our attorneys, as I understand it, work on an hourly basis. They don't work for free or cheaply. So I'd be happy to take any questions. I've spoken with many people, and people come up with very interesting, insightful questions on this. I probably have your answers. I've been involved in this since, let's say, March or April of this year. March of this year. So I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, Mr. Gardino, we have just before we get to you, I'm sorry, did you have a point? Okay, before we get to Mr. Gardino, Mr. Haley? Mr. Haley?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Cool, do you entrust me to make the right decision for the town?
I'm sorry?
Do you entrust me to make the right decision based on the best interest of the town and the residents here? Do you to me?
Do I?
Do you entrust me to make the right decision for the town? If it was up to you, do you think that I would
entrust you to make a decision that you feel is proper, but the town meeting has a legislative responsibility and authority to to decide for itself what the select board should do. I mean, that's the purpose of town meeting. It's a legislative body that is here to direct the select board on matters that come to its attention, whether they're brought up by the select board or by an instructional motion.
Well, tell us
So I trust you and respect you as a person and as a long-term select board member, but in this case, perhaps we see things differently.
And do you think that myself and my fellow board members became cold-hearted individuals overnight?
Tell us the right thing to do.
Okay.
If you know the right thing to do, tell us what it
Mr.
is.
Gardino, you don't have the floor.
Bullshit.
That's not a fair question. It's up to the motion has been made. It's up to the town meeting to decide.
Right. Sit down and be quiet.
Who's next? Mr. Gardino?
Phil Dardino, Precinct 1. I have to say that I'm quite confused by this. And I'm confused because I work with taxes. I work with IRS problems. I don't understand for the life of me, in the fact pattern you have here, why these people would not be entitled to interest from the date of taking till now. Why are you settling this for less than full value plus interest? Explain that to me, please.
Well, it's simply what happens in our court system that after deliberation, the parties may reach an agreement because both parties have to weigh their sense of their likelihood of winning their case.
No, you may settle it for less than that. Why isn't the court giving you interest? If they found for you, why wouldn't, when they found for you, they found for you? They found for the individual, right? The court found for the individual and the selectmen are appealing.
Yeah, the
that
court
correct?
found in favor of Mr. Davenport.
Mr. Davenport.
And they said after the town is reimbursed for the property taxes that were due,
Yeah.
plus interest at 14% a year, plus the town's expenses in foreclosing and in selling the property, that the $219,000 and some dollars left over should be returned to Mr. Davenport.
And why didn't, and when did they take the money?
When did they what?
When did they take the money?
When did they take
When
the
did they-
property?
Yeah, the property.
The property was foreclosed on and sold, I think it was in '24.
In '24.
Right, and the...
So a year ago, a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so then 24 is a year ago. No?
I'm sorry, what?
24 is a year ago. They took the property a year ago.
Oh, let's say a year ago, but the point is that...
No, I'm wondering why they aren't paying you interest, your Davenport interest on the money.
Why they're not...
That's not, you're going back and forth between two people. I don't
No.
know if he can answer that. You've answered the question. I don't know if he's able to answer that, so let's move on. You've asked us three
I have,
times now.
but I was told that I could ask a question, and I do have a question. I do have a question. I want to know, before I can possibly vote on this, and I think before anybody could vote on this, we would want to know, I certainly would want to know, what in the world possible argument does the town have for withholding money which is not theirs? I want to know the argument.
Well, that is a good question. Years ago, Massachusetts law allowed this. That law was changed, as I understand. Yet, if I remember correctly, Ms. Freed, you can correct me. I think it was changed after the takings. But the Supreme Court, as I said, ruled in 2023 in another case that taking property without returning the excess equity after the sale of the property is unconstitutional.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care what the law said. I wouldn't care, okay? Town of Reading, my knowledge of the town of Reading is the town of Reading is the type of town that always did the right thing. This isn't the right thing. I'll vote for you, okay?
Thank you.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Mr. Ventura?
Mark Ventura, Precinct 2. A lot of opinions flying around and stuff that I've heard tonight. You know, one being I'm not even going to go there. But, so the way this is written here, yeah, it sounds like a no-brainer. Let's do the right thing. However, Mr. Haley, you were going to speak. I'd like to hear your side of it before you got interrupted. I just see the way it's written here. I know nothing about this story. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say on this, and that's it, really.
Mr. Haley?
We can't discuss this any, Ivrea, Matt, I, other board members cannot discuss what's going on here at all. We can't answer any questions, none of that. I just simply asked if somebody trusted me and fellow board members to make the right decision. It is what it is. And
So we
that's all
we couldn't get a reason
you can't get
why
any-
we withheld that money, we kept that money? It's a big part of it.
We can't answer any of the questions. It's currently in litigation.
It was legal at the time, I think.
Okay, Mr. Ventura still has the floor. Are you all set?
Yeah, I guess I am. I guess my question wasn't answered, so I guess my question can't be answered.
Mr. Kowalski?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I'm in support of this instructional motion. This is pretty straightforward. For me, I look at what is, at least according to me, what is moral. And in this case, the town took the money that was owed to them. Sure, that's fine. But there was an additional amount that was not given to the owner of the house. So I don't think it's appropriate for the town to keep this money, even though it was legal at the time. It's now been overruled or changed at the state level. I think we should return to them. Just unfortunate timing, but I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Mr. Carnahan?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe Carnahan, Precinct 7. So there have been some strange things said about the relationship between town meeting and the select board tonight, and I would like to read from the charter. In fact, I've actually got the revised version that we approved today. That authority for the management of all the fiscal, prudential, and municipal affairs of the town shall be vested in an executive branch headed by a select board and administered by a town manager. A representative town meeting shall exercise all legislative powers of the town. I believe that handling court cases is much more of the executive and financial side of things. So even if I don't agree with what they're doing, I think it's unambiguous whose decision this is. I don't think that town meeting should take a position on this either way, regardless of how I feel about it, because I don't think that town meeting should be commenting on pending litigation. So I would actually like to, rather than voting in favor or against, I would like to move for indefinite postponement of this instructional motion.
Did I hear a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion before us to indefinitely postpone the motion. And you can continue to speak on the issue, and we will vote on indefinite postponement before we take a vote on the final issue. Where are we? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Joe Arrington, Precinct 8. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm in favor of this motion. To me, it's relatively simple. And this motion is a straightforward solution to the problem. Two residents were not paying their taxes, and essentially we, the town of Reading, took ownership of the properties, as well we should. If you don't pay your taxes, the town is going to take your house or your property. But we made a mistake. We kept more of the money than we should have. We know that because we were taken to court. And the court decided that you took more money than you should have. You need to give that money back to Mr. Davenport. And I believe, even without a decision thus far, we should do the same thing in the Milley case. Mr. Milley should get the excess money returned to him. Look, we went to court. We lost. Let's give them their money back. It's the right thing to do. There's another reason why this motion is important to me, and I hope that we approve it tonight. Like all of us here, I'm getting a little bit older. And when I'm older, I hope I'm lucky enough to still live in the town of Reading. I also hope that my health is such that I'll still be able to manage my affairs properly. If unfortunately I'm not in that situation, and I do mismanage my affairs and end up owning the town of Reading money, I hope the town is not going to take more than I owe. I hope we approve this motion tonight and prove that we're not that kind of town.
Is there another one over here? I'm sorry, I can't. Do you have? Oh, yes, okay.
Hi, Nikki Lamson, Precinct 2. I have a question. Is the town still pursuing that appeal with the Court of Appeals right now?
Mr. Cornelius?
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear that correctly.
Is the town still appealing with the U.S. Court of Appeals? So my question is,
Yes.
my question is, if they're still appealing it, is that the reason why the $200,000 to $219,000 has not been returned?
Yes, so it's under appeal in terms of the Davenport case. It's under appeal at the Federal Circuit Court right now. So we're waiting for a decision. Okay. Hopefully we'll get it soon. The Milley case was stayed until that appeal was heard. So both cases are in active litigation. That's why we don't feel comfortable, relitigating it at town meeting. At a time in the future when the litigation is settled, I'd be happy to come and talk about both sides of the story. You can read our briefs that are public that tells our side of the story. I just don't want to jump ahead of the court now and start making arguments here that may jeopardize our case in the long run. So I'm trying to act in the best interest of the town by not really getting too involved in this tonight, but that's where we are.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Struble?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jeff Struble, Precinct 7. This is sort of a procedural question for the board, and I guess, Chris, maybe you can field it. And I appreciate an honest answer. The result of an affirmative vote by us for this would be that the town shall drop, or it would be recommended to the board to drop its appeal. But instructional motions are not binding. Would you take that, the affirmative vote of the instructional motion to heart and actually drop your appeal, or would you ignore it?
Ms. Freed?
Thank you. So we've already argued in front of the First Circuit Court of Appeals the Davenport case, so the ability to settle is significantly limited at this point. I think that we are so close to the end here, is what Matt was trying to say. We are just waiting for a decision of the court.
So you'll just sit and wait until it plays through?
Correct. We were hoping to have a decision from the court this fall. We briefed it in the winter of in January and argued it in April. So we were hopeful to have a decision already. We're still waiting.
Thank you.
Yes, next.
Ryan Johnstone, Precinct 7. I think just generally speaking, I don't think we have enough information in town meeting to really be moving forward with this. I gotta agree with Mr. Carnahan and what he had said. Right, we're in the middle of a pending litigation. I don't know what the discovery requests were, how much was in there. I don't know if depositions took place, but as much as I would love to just trust everything up there as packaged as 100% true, I understand there's multiple sides to every story, and I just don't feel comfortable enough with this. And I would agree at the end of the day for the motion to carry it for infinity or whatever the term was. I apologize. Thank you.
Ms. Binder?
Thank you, Angela Binder, Precinct 5. Have the executive session meeting minutes been released where it hasn't? Okay, so I'd be very curious to see why the settlement was not accepted. Was it a settlement that town council recommended?
Ms. Freed?
So we can't comment on active litigation. The executive session minutes are still protected because the litigation is ongoing, and releasing them at this time would frustrate the purpose of those sessions.
Okay, I understand that. So I see this more as an exercise to sort of weigh the feeling of town and town meeting. and it's an instructional motion. You can do with it what you want, but it's sort of a way to see how town meeting feels about it. And I do feel that we do have a right to weigh in on this in some way, because there have been lawsuits where there have been settlements, but I think that you've had to come to town meeting to pay that out. Is this a similar situation?
Ms. Fried?
Thank you. So I can't remember if it's your bylaws, not your charter, it's your bylaws, requires any settlement in excess of, I think it's $50,000, subject to check, needs to come before this body. So the select board could not execute a settlement agreement with any party where we would pay $50,000 or more. Even if they had those funds available in their discretion, it would still need to come before this body. Now, if there is a judgment that is not in our favor and we elect not to appeal, then the select board could pay those funds out from available funds. There's a statute that requires that immediate payment. But to the extent that we settle anything, that would need to come before this board if the payment is $50,000 or more.
So I do think that we do have, obviously it's the select board's decision, town manager's decision, but I do think that there have been instances, and there would be an instance if it was over $50,000, where we would have to weigh in on that. So I think that no?
No.
Yeah,
Yes, I was just going to add.
Okay, so I do think that, there is some merit to getting a feel for how this body feels. And I'm in favor of this. The town has settled, the town has with builders and people building the high school and other people. And, it seems like this was a very unfortunate situation. It could have been handled differently. I don't know why the town waited 10 years before seizing the property. There's a lot of information. The town could have handled things differently in that way too. So I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of repaying the money. Thank you.
Ms. Fried?
I just wanted to add one point of information, I guess. To the extent that the select board decides to move forward with a settlement and present, this is in any case, and present it to this body, the select board will come forward with a list of reasons as to why they believe settlement is proper in that instance, and that why the amount agreed upon is sufficient to make the parties whole in this case. Now here, the select board has decided that they wanted to seek an appeal of the lower court case. That was the decision. I recognize that it's frustrating that this body may not have all the information, but we are in active litigation. The briefs that we submitted are public, and they outline our arguments and specify, why we believe that return of the funds wasn't in the best interest of the town. Those involve not only a statute of limitations defense, as you can see in the filings, but also the fact that Mr. Davenport continued to reside in the home rent-free for numerous years. And so all of these factors together are our case and are available for review. But at this point, litigating the case in this town meeting is not in the best interest of the town, as we are still in active litigation.
Mr. Cole, did you have a response?
Mr. Davenport had no tenancy agreement with the town during the time he was there. He wouldn't have even understood the nature of a tenancy agreement, I believe. And this issue of rent was only brought up as an afterthought by the town.
Ms. Alvarado?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Vanessa Alvarado, Precinct 5. As to the two bullets, it's been stated earlier, but I just want to emphasize the fact that we as town meeting do not have the authority to tell the select board how to manage a legal case. That is 100% within their authority and purview. So I would suggest, or would ask if Mr. Cole would accept a friendly amendment to remove the first bullet, because we do not have that authority.
I believe the town does, I'm sorry. I believe the town
I'm not sure what's going on
Um,
there, but
So I'm just pointing out for the benefit of town meeting, we don't have the authority to do bullet 1. That is up to the select board to do.
well, I think,
But I won't make a motion.
okay.
It's late. I will say, I agree with the spirit of this instructional motion. I do believe Mr. Davenport is owed a certain amount of restitution. That said, I do have a procedural question. Given that the case is currently under litigation, hypothetically speaking, if the court ruled that we owed Mr. Davenport X thousands of dollars, and this body tonight votes on that second bullet that we owe him restitution, would we as a town be paying him twice? Hypothetically speaking, of course.
It may be a question for Ms. Freed, but these are non-binding. Every instructional motion is non-binding. They're just suggestions. Did you have something to add, Ms. Freed? I didn't mean that. No, that's... Okay.
So then, I'm confused about the purpose of, if this is non-binding, then what, Mr. Cole, are you asking the town to do? We cannot tell the select board what to do. So what is the purpose of this instructional motion?
Instructional motions have always been considered suggestions to whoever is being instructed. So there's nothing binding about it. If there was a settlement, it has nothing to do with what was voted here. And that's about as far as I'm going to go with the legal issues.
That's fine. So essentially, even if we vote to appeal that, or even if we vote to support this, it means nothing. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Freed, did you
I
have
will
anything?
not be supporting this, even though I agree with the spirit of it. I hope the select board does reach a settlement or agrees to pay some sort of restitution to Mr. Davenport. I do think he is owed that, but I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Ms. Freed?
Yes, just for the record, instructional motions are non-binding, so even if this passes, the select board is not required to take the actions identified in the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Pacino?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Phil Pacino, Precinct 5. I've been a town meeting member here since 1980. That's 45 years. I don't know if I'm the longest serving member at this point in time or not. I cannot remember any time in the 45 years that I've been here that we have interceded in a legal case. You know, if you vote for this, the plaintiff's attorney is going to take it and run. We are now influencing a legal case of which we have no right in this body to do. We have attorneys. The decision's been made. We should let the case go forward. Mr. Carnahan has asked to be indefinitely postponed. We're only hearing one side of the argument here. The select board and the legal counsel cannot come up with the other side because it'll influence the case and it'll hurt their case in order to do this. Again, vote for this. The plaintiff's attorney is going to love you because you just made his case. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, on the other side.
Laura Noonan, Precinct 4. Move the question, please.
The question has been moved. I assume you wanted both on the indefinite postponement and the main motion. Yes, yes. I'm sorry, what was the quorum? Oh, do we have a quorum? Do we have 7 people questioning the quorum here? Yes, okay, we need a quorum count then. Point of order. Can you just take the vote on moving the question when we get the quorum question answered? Yes. Well, we've had the quorum question. We now have to check to see if we have a quorum. So everybody please rise, and I have my counters count for the quorum.
I'm on this side here. You count me here. I'm busy for a bit, right?
$13.
13. Okay.
32.
32,
23.
23,
35?
35. Yes, we have a quorum, 104. Okay, now we will move to ending debate. All those, requires a 2/3 vote. All those who want to end debate, please rise.
I'm not rising.
13.
13,
29.
29,
18.
18,
40?
40. And those opposed to ending debate?
0.
0,
1.
1,
2.
2,
1?
1. The vote being 100 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. The question has been moved. We will now proceed to a vote on indefinite postponement. So all those in favor of indefinite postponement, please raise your hand. Point of order? Sorry, I apologize. Microphone, can't hear you.
Apologies, can you just clarify what indefinite postponement is?
If you vote yes on indefinite postponement, you are effectively voting against the article. You're postponing it indefinitely. So all those in favor of indefinite postponement, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the motion does not carry. We will now proceed to a vote on the main motion. All those in favor of the instruction?
Point of order, you said voted yes.
I'm sorry, it's getting late. You're absolutely right. It has been, the question has been moved. I mean, it has been definitely postponed. Okay, so we now move on to the second instructional motion, which we have somebody who made that motion. I made the motion. Okay. Who are you? Laurie Newman, Precinct 4. Okay, we have a second. I saw a second. Okay, this again would leave two instructional motions on the table. All those in favor of adjourning sine die, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the chair is in doubt. All those in favor of adjourning sine die, please rise.
Ten.
10,
12?
12,
11.
11,
15.
15. Those opposed to adjourning sine die?
Three.
I'm sorry, what was that, 3?
Yes.
3, okay.
12.
12,
16.
16,
21?
21. The vote being 48 in the affirmative, 52 in the negative. We will proceed with the next instructional motion. Mr. Arena, is he? He's not here. All right, we will move to the third one. Ms. Binder? The question in the quorum? Mr. Cassie? I know, are you asking, yes. Okay, we have, the quorum has been questioned again. Could I take another count on the quorum?
Everybody's walking out. Point of order.
It all depends on what action we take after this. We can, even without a quorum, we can adjourn either to another night or sine die. So that is still allowable. So we'll,
Move to adjourn, not sine die, please.
yes, you can, yes. Okay, so a quorum count?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, we're taking a quorum count.
Everyone's going to stand up.
I told you. I said
Wait a minute now. 7, 8, 9, 10.
7.
7.
27.
27.
33?
33.
23.
23. And the count is, we have 90. We have lost our quorum.
Motion to adjourn.
Ms. Murphy moves that we adjourn to another night or a sine die? Ms. Murphy? Sine die. Okay. We have a motion to adjourn sine die. Is there a second? Second. Okay, please sit down, because I'm going to take one more vote here. All those in favor of adjourning sine die, please raise your hands. And those opposed? The chair is in doubt. Okay. All those in favor of adjourning sine die?
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
Point of order.
If we don't have a quorum, how can we vote on anything?
We always allow, I said this before, we can
sorry.
always adjourn, we can always vote to adjourn either to another night or sine die, even without a quorum.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Okay, all those, where were we? I'm sorry, we were, motion to adjourn sine die, I questioned the vote. All those in favor of adjourning sine die, please rise.
Four.
4.
8.
8.
15.
15.
10?
10. And those opposed to adjourning sine die?
2.
2.
12.
12.
17.
17.
20?
20. The vote being 37 in the affirmative, 51 in the negative, we are not adjourning sine die. Do we have a motion to adjourn to Thursday evening? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of adjourning until Thursday, please raise your hand. Those opposed, the motion carries. We adjourn until Thursday evening.